Thanks, Charles. Calling to order the December 16th, 2021 Planning Board meeting of the town of Southampton. And I need to read the preamble. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with Chapter 417 of the laws of 2021, and until January 15th, 2022, all of the board's meeting will be held remotely via video conference. So we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. Can we join in for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Florian, can you give a roll call, please?
Madam Chair.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty is absent. Secretary is here. Board Member Long.
Present.
Board Member Catalinato.
Present.
Board Member Zuccarelli is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Gloria. We have a full agenda posted on the town's website for today's meeting. The town's planning staff, as well as applicants and their representatives, will be participating via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. Charles Certain will be muting and holding the speakers in a virtual waiting room until it's their time to give testimony before the board. A reminder that applicants and their agent should state their name and address for the record. As is typical, there are no public comments allowed during our daytime meetings, nor is it appropriate for the public to use the chat function to comment on applications. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website on the town clerk's meeting portal. If you're having difficulty accessing the meeting, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record, will be removed from the meeting until the end of the discussion and vote on the application. Finally, in accordance with legislation, this meeting will be recorded and transcribed at a later date and will be made available to the public. Please let the record show that Dennis Finnerty is here. Hi, Dennis. Hi, Kathleen. So we're going to hold off just a little bit on the meeting dates, setting the meeting dates for the planning board for next year, because it's possible that since the town board is maybe moving their work session to Monday, we can begin on Tuesday at 1 o'clock, which had been our preference to get a little bit more time.
Thursday.
Claire will let us know.
Yes. Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
I'll double check.
we do not have any minutes to approve
Oh,
today.
sorry, Gloria. Okay.
And, as Charles said, our meetings are on Thursday, not Tuesday.
Right, sorry, right. Thank you. And so we're going to also move the work session policy to another date so that we can continue to work on the language between now and then. And all,
January 13th, do you want it on? What do you want?
sure,
Okay, I'll hold it there. We'll see how it goes.
okay. So we want to get into NRP group. Claire, that's you, the Hamlet of Quogue.
Yeah, let me show you the plans, a little overview for you and tell you where the town board's at with this application. So let me share the screen. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. This is the aerial. This is the subject property approximately here. Part of this will be a subdivision that'll be approved by the planning board and the health departments. And this property will be proposed to be a change of zone to multifamily residential, which will allow affordable apartments living. So this is the site plan, and I will turn it around for you. Correct direction. north and south. So these are the proposal right now, which is to provide numerous buildings that will house proposed 104 units at this time. And some amenities, a clubhouse in the front here, and you can see the walking trail. And then this is the sewage treatment plant that's proposed for the project, because obviously it's over what's allowable for density. So you saw the town board received an application for a change of zone to MFPRD, again, for affordable housing, and that allows the density to go up to a certain amount, which in this case, they're proposing 6 units per acre. And whether that density is appropriate is something that to be analyzed. And so you saw this first as a coordination from the town board, because you're one of the approving agencies for this project. So you're an involved agency. And at the time of you relinquishing lead agency to the town board, you said that you wanted to discuss this further, and we tentatively scheduled for this date so you can have some time to get some environmental concerns in writing to the town board. My purpose today is to take some notes and to turn it into a report for you. So just some ideas, some issues that you might have. Initially for me, looking at this, it would be traffic, density, groundwater impacts. There might be a plume in this area for Quiog. I don't know if it's adjacent to any plumes. The use on this property to make sure that there's no issues, remaining issues that might affect this. So those are some initial issues. So I'd be interested to see what the board might say on this, and to prepare a report to the town board before they do secret on the project.
So Claire, just a question for clarification. That out parcel of 6 acres is going to be a separate subdivision?
Yeah, so that it's going to remain as the laundry / car wash facility to the south, Strebels. Yep.
Did they ever do an environmental review in terms of car wash?
That's a good question, and I definitely going to put that as a question. Car wash environmental review. I would like to be interested to see if they've already done a, environmental audit on the property, right? Related to that. Great.
What else is around that property? Are there,
Well, go ahead.
the map looked like there was nothing there, and obviously there's a car wash, which I didn't know.
Right. I'll go back to the aerial. I'm not quite sure if that'll show it, or is that maybe too zoomed out, but let me turn it the right direction again. In case it didn't work. So you can see on the west side is actually a trailer park. So there is a multi-family situation going on right now on the west side of this property. To the west of that is the R20 zoning. There's residential here. And this is a newer subdivision called Post Fields that was approved. And during that process was the issue of the plume. So there's no basements in any of these houses. That was one of the issues that came up during that review. Sorry. And so then there's residential to the north here too. I believe up here, and that's out of view, of course. If you want me to, I could pull up the GIS, but I believe up here is like a junkyard or some kind of use in this area.
And the multifamily development would be in that smaller yellow rectangle.
This area here, the multifamily proposed is in this area proposed. Yes. Yeah.
Could you expand the area a little bit to one of the first affordable housing projects in the town is directly northeast of there.
Is it here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can get to the GIS. You want me to do that? I'll stop sharing for a second and get to GIS.
Two roads that service as a kind of a loop road.
Yeah, the Heather Drive, right?
Yeah. Debbie Trail or Debbie Drive or something.
Yeah.
And that, I believe that project was 100% affordable.
Right.
I remember our former town engineer had a home in there, George Mutu.
Yeah, I think he still lives there.
Yeah, I think he's still there.
Mhm.
Question is, what school district is all this landing in?
I believe West Hampton.
This is all West Hampton?
Mhm.
So, I mean, one of the central questions is this now, there seems to be a concentration of this in one particular school district, number one. Number
Mhm.
two, I think our comp plan calls for affordable housing projects. The demand is much greater east of the canal than west. So how are we impacting this one school district by now another affordable housing project?
Okay, good. Okay,
Can I ask some questions about the STP?
of course. Yep.
Can we go back to the map and pick up the area where the STP is going in?
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me get back to my sharing. I was trying to get to the aerial and I think I did. But
Around.
yeah, I'm trying to jump around. Here we go. Get back to sharing screen. That's that. So you want to see the plan itself?
I just want to see where it's going to be located in relation to the any other environmental issues and the neighbors.
Mm-hmm. So you can see it, and I'll rotate it one more time. It's in this corner, and then this is, this just shows geography here. This is only showing slopes, I should say. It's not showing that these are like units, right? Right, kind of they've got a road between, but they're units,
All right. So there is
here.
That's the trailers?
That's
Yeah.
trailer, see? So there's trailers right there.
I would like a lot more information on the impact that will have on those trailers, on those people living there.
Right.
I mean, it's right up against it. It's one road away.
There definitely has to be a setback to any structures with an STP, and it depends on the size of it. I do know that. But yeah, that would be important. So the setback to the adjacent uses, right? Okay.
Especially since it's strictly residential.
Mm-hmm.
And for
I'm still confused as to where this is going to be.
I think Glorian's question is that yellow box. What is that yellow box?
This is just this is one of the parcels. So it's going to be part of this larger parcel. Just approximately, can you see my cursor here?
Yes.
Okay, it's going to be approximately here to here. I'm going to show you in the next one. This is just an out parcel, which will be merged right in. So this is just a separate lot right now with nothing on it. It's going to be merged in. And it's going to be all in one lot here. And then this is going to be separated off to be Strebels. And there's the sewage treatment plant.
Be intense.
A couple of things. Before I was on the planning board, I was the chair of the CAC West, and the NPR group came to visit us and put their proposal before us. And we had asked if the STP can accommodate the trailer park next door as well.
Interesting.
And I believe they were going to reach out to the management or owners of the trailer park and see if they'd be willing or interested in entertaining that. The other thing is I'd like to know the breakdown of the units, how many 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom, and what the max occupancy would be. Quaog is a very, very small town. And, when you're talking about this kind of density, are we increasing the density in Quaog of 20% or 25% overnight? I'd like to know that number.
That's a great question. One of the questions I saw in the environmental documents they've submitted so far was a concern of the police department. They came back and said, here's the residents, and this might represent up to like 15% more residences.
It's a big number.
So that's a big number for a small community. Yeah. So that's a great question. And so I'll bring that up, and I'll have the facts from that document. It's online. I'm not quite sure if you have an opportunity to look at it. I'll just send you a link to it after
That'd be
today.
great.
Okay, please.
So
Gloria-
Quiog is an unincorporated hamlet in West Hampton.
Correct. Well, it's in the West Hampton School District. It's in the town of Southampton, obviously.
It's an
While we're-
unincorporated district in the town of Southampton.
Correct.
Hamlet.
While we're looking at the effect on the police department, I guess the question becomes all services in there. Has there been an analysis of the effect it's going to have on the fire department to be able to do that? I'm assuming it's Suffolk County water. Do we have water have to be piped in there? I mean, there's those questions also.
Okay. Yes, definitely. And I'll say no new wells, never
Right.
know.
I mean, one day the aquifer is going to say, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
So
Yeah,
never
exactly.
really done an analysis on all of these subdivisions and this large a subdivision on the availability of our water.
Mhm.
Supply.
Great.
It's a large development.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we have the kind of zoning we have. And so by changing the zoning this dramatically, that these are questions that have to be looked at.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to look at that aerial? I did bring it up. Do you want to
Also,
look at the area?
can I
Okay.
just say that, I mean, haven't read the detail of it, but are there any sustainability components to it? Is there any kind of anything in the development that will help minimize the use of electricity and power?
That's a great question. I'll look at that. I don't recall that, but it's a good question.
I mean, these will be rental units, and who will the developer be the owner?
As far as I know, rental units, yeah.
Because then if the owner is a developer, hopefully they would be more inclined to make the facility energy neutral, unless they're I guess the tenants may have to pay all those utility bills. I'm just wondering the finances here.
Right. Mhm.
That brings up a whole nother question, whether they're ownership that are going to be rented out affordably, or it's going to be straight rental under a management corporation. And that will have different effects.
Mhm.
But it's an affordable, doesn't it have to comply with the New York State affordable formula,
Yes.
right? In order
It's
to
the only
get
way they're
zone
getting
change.
density.
So
Yeah.
As I recall, it was 100% rental, all affordable units, no market rate.
Affordable. So, but Craig's question is a good one. How many 1, 2, or 3 bedroom units? What's the rental, the affordable rental formula for
That's
those?
going to affect the school district.
Very much.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly. All good points.
So is the developer, did they have to buy any development rights for this?
No, if they do it affordably, they can do it as of right under MF part, as of right if decided to land here, obviously. But yes, there would be no transfer of development rights to my knowledge. I will check that though.
Claire, what is the as of right yield without the zone change?
I think it's zoned R40. Is that right? Do you see that? Did I not put the zone in?
And-
I'm sorry. Yes, R40.
And the
and it's
entire
17
lot is,
acres. So just basically, big
Okay.
quick number, 15 to 17 lots because of roads and things like that.
okay.
But I'll get you the yield too. There should be a yield plan in the project.
And you'll be requesting an alternative in the secra documents.
Oh, yeah. Alternatives, yep. As I said, I'm going to work on a report. I'll have a draft to you. Feel free to shoot ideas to me, and then we'll look at it finally for the 13th. I think the town board's going to consider this as a public hearing on the 11th of January. but most likely they'll keep it open for public comments so you can have your comments in there. So I thought this was productive. This is good. I'll put it together in a report for you. Okay. Any other questions?
Okay.
Good. Yeah. So no
Oh,
action.
no action. You'll
Yeah.
get us your.
I'll put it together a report.
Right. So do
Great.
you want to go into the Atlantic Golf Club staff housing?
Yep. I think Charles is going to let a couple people in for us. Wayne Bruin, Tony Panza.
Yep.
I believe.
They're coming in.
Great.
If I may, Brian Grogan from Paul Grosser's office may be on, or Paul Grosser, either one or both, as well as Dennis Susskind.
Okay. We can let Dennis Susskind in.
I don't see the other two. Dennis is coming in.
Could it be a number, Wayne? A phone number?
You mean Brian Grogan?
Yeah, I only have everybody else is accounted for with names, but
Well, it looks like there is somebody from Paul Grosser's office there on.
Oh, I see her. Caitlin.
Caitlin. Okay, great. I'm just going to do a little summary, and we can discuss the documents that are in your packet. So at the last meeting, prior to the last meeting, the applicant has submitted an expanded environmental assessment form, and they suggested that the planning board amend their negative declaration to include all the information that's been submitted in that form, and also brought up by the public and with the referrals that were part of the process. And we discussed that briefly at the last meeting. I said that I prepare the secret documents based upon that, and I have done that, and it was part of the packet that you received on Monday. Related to that, part of that EAF expanded form was a groundwater report, which is a little bit technical. So I suggested to the applicant's representative today that they maybe do a summary of what the conclusions of that report do, so we can all understand what it holds. I have prepared in the secret documents, I refer to the reports. I state there's no anticipated impact to the wetlands of shore ponds and to the groundwater. Based on the setbacks for the project, the implementation of the 100-foot buffer that will be part of the project, and the design of the IA system, the closed loop geothermal. So all of that should be, is part of the record. But again, I just suggested maybe a summary if the board's inclined. But maybe the applicant wants to address that, or maybe the planning board has any questions before that's done. So that's my suggestion.
So are we going to be getting an overview from, is it Grosser, Wayne?
If you'd like, last week we did provide some insight as to the documents, but
Yeah,
Paul
I think-
Grosser or Brian are here and they can give you a summary of what the portion that they submitted, if you'd like.
Yes.
Paul, I think, is on the telephone. Brian, I don't know if you're on.
Yes, he's allowed to speak.
Okay.
Okay, this is Paul Grosser. We did the requested analysis of the potential impacts of the site, particularly related to the pond. This pond is one of those ponds in the area that is a kettle hole pond, so there's no outlets. So essentially, it actually recharges water into the aquifer as opposed to creates a drain. So there aren't any impacts of the groundwater that then impact the pond. The impacts the pond is surface water runoff, the analysis, the surface water runoff. There's going to be restrictions on the use of fertilizers and using native plants and the like to minimize any of the impacts of that stormwater. As Claire mentioned, the IA system is going to be used to treat the sewage, so that will reduce it, the level of nitrogen going into the groundwater significantly. And because it's a very low density area, when you do the analysis, it has very little impact as far as concentrations of nitrogen in the groundwater. As you mentioned, the setbacks are all in place, and we're abiding by them. And it would be no impact on the pond or significant impact on the groundwater. Open to any questions you might have.
Will there be any?
Can I just ask you, Paul, that part of your analysis there was to run a standard burbs model, nitrogen loading model, which takes into account disturbance of land and the septic that was there, all of which
That's correct.
With health department and planning board processes.
That's correct. All of that goes into the burbs. Projected fertilization rates, the input from the IA system, atmospheric deposition. That pretty much covers the basic aspects of it. Yeah. Give us some questions.
Yeah, I have a question. Does your plan include any monitoring, annual monitoring of the pond and the system?
No. The impacts were negligible, so there really didn't see any need to do that, and there are not significant mitigation measures besides the normal setbacks and control of fertilizers. But didn't see a need for that.
So you believe that the mitigation that you've proposed is sufficient to keep the pond secure?
That's correct.
Doesn't the IA
Really
system have to be monitored? Because if it's not functioning correctly, it will not, in fact, take the nitrogen out of the system. So what is the process for that monitoring?
Yeah, there's a normal process required by the health department to make sure that it's operating.
Can you articulate what that is?
Offhand, I don't remember exactly what the frequency is, but it's they have the regulations in place as part of the installation.
That applies to every IA system throughout town, no matter where it's installed. So the
Correct.
health department
Correct.
has that to assure that there's compliance and they're continuing to function.
Do you want me to spell out what that is? I can obviously look that up and put it in the staff report and in the document, if that's fine. I'm going to put just first health department standards, but I will write out what that standard is, if that's good for you. Does that make everybody comfortable?
And who checks that? Is there? I'm just learning about some of these new bigger systems, and I don't know what the current protocol is, so I think I would like to just know that, if how often, who monitors, is there a report that has to go somewhere?
Sure, we can provide that. But
And then whatever the standard, I'm going to say health department standards for health department standards, but I will spell it out in the documents, if that's good.
yeah,
Sound
they
good?
have to meet 19 milligrams per liter as a discharge
Right.
requirement.
Right.
So Mr. Gross, it says the applicant, the report states the proposed action includes the installation of a stormwater management system. So can you talk just a bit about that?
Yeah, essentially we're recharging stormwater that falls on the impervious surfaces. So we maintain all the stormwater on site. The standard system to recharge the stormwater on site.
And so who manages that?
The property owner does. They'll monitor that, and it needs to be cleaned out periodically because if it backs up, then they can do that. Usually these things are pretty effective and don't require a lot of maintenance.
That's the standard stormwater runoff drainage systems that the town engineers approved for the facility, to make sure there's no surface water runoff leading to the pond.
Which will then help ensure the health of the pond. Yeah.
Correct.
That's correct.
I saw on one of the reports that this, and I'm not exactly sure which system would need to manage a 2-inch rainfall. And my recollection is we're seeing 3-inch as sort of the standard that is now required. So
Yeah, it's 3-inch. It's
Okay.
3-inch. I mean, it's just recently, obviously, we know it changed with us, but so that's that's a mistake on our part. The town engineers reviewed it for 3 inches.
okay, because it's specifically said too.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but it's 3. And the town engineer has given a sign off on this with conditions. So. Okay.
Can we clarify what the vote is before us today?
So there's 2 actions proposed. This is the action deadline for the project. The first action would be the amended neg deck, which is the elaboration of the information for the determination of the negative declaration for the project. So initially in April, the planning board adopted a negative declaration for the project using a short form, which is answering some questions. And the planning board adopted the report of that negative declaration before they deemed the application complete. And as I explained before, there's been a lot of information submitted with the project, a couple adjustments being made, but I would argue those are site plan adjustments, which you would do for any site plan. But here is the reasoned elaboration for the neg deck. So in order to do that, you would do an amended neg deck. So these are the reasons where there's no environmental impact on the property, which is what you found initially with the project. So that's my summary of that. I don't know if Wayne wants to speak more.
I would just like to say also that based on the public comments and the comments you received from your advisory agencies, in particular, the public comments are saying that the planning board's negative declaration wasn't sufficient in its form when you adopted it in April. In particular, their arguments were they didn't have an opportunity to comment before you adopted that. Well, I would submit that the planning board held at least 2 hearings and the public record was kept open for a lengthy period of time. The public, in particular our neighbors, were not lay people. They had an attorney, they had some experts all reviewing and providing comments. And so based on those comments, particular the neighbors' comments that you didn't take into account public comments when you adopted your negative declaration, that we suggest that the planning board take into account all those comments, and we more or less assimilated and put everything in a certain format, a format that seeker desires, rather than a short form EAF, a long form. And we've asked you to go back and just reiterate and elaborate on why this project would not have an impact. Essentially, the project, as Claire has indicated, has not changed, but for the mitigation measures that have been further enhanced, such as the requisite wetland buffers the drainage and perhaps the upgrade from the 2 to 3 inch upgrade that was just mentioned, as well as this board's insistence that we extend the trail as well as provide a view shed easement, all of which was acceptable to our client. And that was just repeated and put in the format of an expanded EAF so that it is there, so that one could look at the record and say you took a hard look and provided a written elaboration as to why this project would not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. And that's what seeker requires, as you know, at any point in the entire process of your jurisdiction, whether it be site plan, subdivision, wetland permit, up until you approve it, you can always go back and amend your negative declaration. And that's what was we suggested here. And it's primarily because of the comments that you received from the public that were insisting that you didn't do that seeker review in a sufficient manner. And that's what we've asked you to do here, is to amend the negative declaration and explain in better detail why the project will not have a significant adverse impact.
So just to clarify, is there anything in the regulations that requires doing this review necessitates any other public hearings? Any regulations, codes, or statutes that require us to hold any other public hearings to amend the neg deck?
I had the same question, Robin.
I
I
also,
may, if I may, and your counsel can reply and as well, but so your jurisdiction here is site plan and a combined site plan wetland permit, and it's that jurisdiction that requires or gives the planning board the option of holding a public hearing. It's not mandated, an option in the first instance. In this case, you did hold the public hearings. Seeker in itself has no hearing requirement except for on a draft environmental impact statement. So there is no hearing requirement on adopting your negative declaration in the first instance, nor is there a hearing requirement if you choose to amend it. But it does require you, if you choose to amend it, to do so before you undertake the approval and to file that amended negative declaration with the DEC, just as you did with the original negative declaration. As far as the hearing process, you know, the timeline and the requirement for a hearing is pretty expressive in the state law and the town code. You're required to hold a hearing within 62 days and take an action within 62 days of the close of the hearing. And the point is, it has been the practice of this board. You solicit these comments during the hearing process. In this case, you held 2 hearings in an extensive 30-day public comment period. And then you allow the applicants always to, and as well as the board, to consider all those comments. And in many cases, ask the applicant to address those. And that's what we did in this instance. To suggest that a hearing be reopened here, not only would require our consent, but it sort of belies the whole rationale as to why there is a deadline and when does the hearing process stop. You know, of course, the applicant under the law is always provided an opportunity to review or respond to any comments that are raised in a public comment. That's a constitutional right, so a due process. So here, if you reopened, you would need our consent to do that, number one. Number two is, the point is, when does it stop? You reopen it and then we would need further opportunity. And then of course, if somebody would want to oppose that and, you know, continue to comment, when does it stop? And that's why the process has deadlines, 62 days to a hearing and 62 days to an action. That is to protect all applicants, and it's to protect the process with the board. And I would submit here, you held extensive hearings and kept the record open to the public. The information here is supplementary to what you did originally. The project hasn't changed. You heard comments. You heard comments from professionals on this, not just a layperson not understanding the process. And I would ask if your attorney, if she would have anything to add to that.
No, just to note, under 330-184E, you are under action deadline unless the applicant grants you an adjournment to continue contemplating this matter. Madam Chair, there's, despite our policy, Brian Matthews is asking in the chat to be heard. I just want to make sure you have an opportunity to weigh in on that.
No, he's the attorney for opposite. That's
Correct.
Not the process here. So I have a question, just to clarify further, that the information that was provided to us is not new information, but supplemental information. If it was new information, we might look at a public hearing.
Well, the
So,
question is, we didn't change the project. Nothing's changed the project. It's information that this board had, and we assimilated and put in a manner which is following the methodology in a long form EAF, which you didn't have before, but certainly all the information I believe you considered. The information at Paul Grosser's office, again, complies to the health department. It complies with your stormwater runoff requirements, and primarily, and they were your findings before, because of those, that this would not have an impact on the pond or the environment.
Right.
So,
right, as I remember, our conversation about the pond was geared toward protecting the pond. And so, in my view, how you've augmented the document answers that.
Okay. So would it be productive? Do you want to go through the part 3 narrative?
I think so.
I'll touch on it. I think we talked about the groundwater a lot, so I'll skip over that one, but otherwise I'll go through it. Let's get to that page.
that's not our project, Claire.
I know, just 1 second. It's all technical. Everything's technical here. And of course it's backwards. There we go. So I'm going to go just the narrative, but this is the outline. You answer the part 2 with the secret documents. I'll just go through the narrative part so it's clearer. Anything that's checked, obviously, I just answer in the narrative portion. And here is the narrative. The impact on land, the depth of groundwater is greater than 3 feet in the project sites. They're avoiding the slopes. The construction projects, it's anticipated to be less than 1 year of runoff for the project to be retained on site. And we talked about that. We talked about surface waters. So it's within the jurisdiction of the chapter 325, which is why you're issuing a wetlands permit, but it meets all the setbacks. How the building is going to be 172 feet. The wetlands, it's outside the jurisdiction of the DEC. And then, of course, the groundwater evaluation reports. So this is the summaries of those portions, and we've talked about that prior. The 100-foot buffers proposed. Groundwater was discussed.
Claire, just can you slow down, please? It's a lot to comprehend.
Oh, it is. It
Yes.
is. Did you have any questions about those two? I'm sorry. I just said I would skip over those sections because we had a summary on the groundwater and the surface water portion.
Well,
But we're going to slow down now. So if that's good. Okay.
Florian was saying something.
oh, I just wanted to make sure that we found the place where 2 inches still noted.
You know what? I'm going to specifically say here that it should be 3 inch. So I'll add that, okay? Per the code. If
I
that's,
mean, I saw it written somewhere, but I just don't,
I saw it in his report. I did see that in his report,
I'm
and
not
that was,
sure.
yeah, I agree with you. So in this portion, if you can see my cursor, can you see my cursor?
Yes.
Under this bullet, I'm going to reference the requirement of the town code for the 3 inches. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
So that I just may add is that, Glorian, if Mr. Grosser's report was based on 2 inches, the 3 inch requirement by the town engineer is more restrictive, more protective. So,
Yes.
Exactly. So we'll have that in there. So the impact on agricultural resources, it is in our agricultural district. However, it has not been farmed since the mid 80s. So this portion also is in the Plymouth Sea, which is not classified as prime agricultural soils. So there's no impact on that. Aesthetics, this was an issue brought up. This is the view shed to Shorts Pond, which the public and the planning board identified from the beginning was an issue with this project. And with the site plan review, there has been a requirement to have a view shed easements as part of this project. So, so the first bullet, it's the 6,500 square foot employee housing structure is designed to appear like a single family residence with natural materials and similar roof lines. Proposed action incorporates landscape screening of the structure, parking area only, which is in keeping with residences in the area. The proposed action is adjacent to a view shed, which is identified to be important by the town of Southampton. Settle Hill Road was included as one of the scenic roads in map 12E in the eastern portion of the town in the 1999 update, page 120. The proposed action includes a scenic easements. So I'm going to say scenic view shed easement, which includes the yearly mowing. I'm going to change this. I'm going to leave this a little more open-ended for Marty Shea to weigh in on what type of maintenance we need there. I spoke to him yesterday and he mentioned maybe biannual, every other year, you could achieve it and, have the meadow be thriving. So maybe
That's
leave this to
acceptable.
like a management plan, like a meadow management plan that you would approve with Marty's inputs, if that's agreeable to the planning board.
Meadows are of value as well. You have to balance the view with the value of the meadow.
Right. So I'll do a little change there. And it'll be a management plan for the meadow, okay?
Yes.
And we'll have that as a condition also.
That's fine. I think the point was is that we were going to do nothing, but you did want to maintain that as a meadow. So that was the annual mowing. If you wanted to do that every other year, that's fine with us as well.
Okay. So yeah, I'll be a little less specific, but say management plan for the meadow. This last one is there's a Russian olive, which is shown on the pictures initially with the view shed. It's probably in the right of way, but we'll just have it identified and removed so it enhances the easements into Shorts Pond.
Maybe it can be used elsewhere on the property, some other place.
Yeah, it's a non-native.
It's an invasive.
Yeah, it's an invasive.
Non-native.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's got no worth to it on that perspective.
Every tree is worthy.
Yes, I know.
I
Exactly.
run outside my office window and I enjoy it all summer. So
Yeah. So if that's okay, we'll have it removed if that's okay. Historic. This is something that was looked into prior. We received this before deeming the application complete initially. The phase 1 archaeological investigation was completed and the recommendation was no further archaeological work recommended after the shovel tests were done in the area of disturbance. So that's just summarized there. Open space. This is related to the extension of the trail on the site. Up to this point, I never really spoke about what we want in terms of a trail easement because trails meander. You want to avoid nice trees and there's some slopes issues. I'm recommending in this case that the trail width be 25 feet. So I would specify it right here if the board is inclined. And this is the trail. If you remember, it's the trail that's being extended from the original approval. That was actually 100 or 50 feet wide. And then this would be just an extension of that, but the 25 feet should be sufficient in this case. Okay, so I'll specify it there. And this is also related to, again, I reiterate the view shed easements with the scenic view. That's important for open space purposes also. Okay, any questions?
That's so far.
Great. It is Aquifer Protection Overlay District. This property has been cleared historically. Prior to the 80s, it was farmlands, and then it ceased to be farmlands when this the whole entire tract became the golf course. So there's no requirements for the aquifer protection, but I do want to address it here and make sure that's it's correctly identified. And the proposed action is located in an area which is substantially cleared. The existing vegetation is being retained except the removal of the one non-native tree. Proposed action will not result in the reduction of the quantity or quality of the resource or characteristic, which is the basis of the designation of the CEA. And related to the CEA, we reduce fertilizers, and their proposed action in this area of the lot will not have pesticides or fertilizers with the use. So we'll have that as a condition also. Energy, this is more of a positive. If you don't have any questions, I just don't want to go too fast. This is more of a positive. They're having a geothermal system, which is closed loop. The proposed action includes solar panels on the roof that is shown on the building plans. And so I just summarized that it's a positive impact in energy that they're going to accommodate their use on the property. So I just wanted to point that out. And then consistency with community plans. I'll just read this, but if any questions, please interrupt me. Proposed action is consistent with the adopted land use plans and zoning regulations. Proposed action of staff housing is a customary accessory use to the permitted golf course. The proposed action is consistent with adopted state regulations. The proposed action involves construction and joining a freshwater wetland known as Shorts Pond, as it is within the jurisdiction of 200 feet pursuant to the town of Southampton, chapter 325. The proposed action meets this minimum structural setback of 125, as the setback of the building will be 172 feet. Proposed action is outside the jurisdiction of the DEC designated freshwater wetlands known as Shorts Pond, as it occurs outside the required jurisdictional setback of 100 feet. Proposed action is adjacent to a view shed, which is identified to be important to the town of Southampton, and I just referenced the part of the comp plan. The proposed action includes a scenic easements. I'll say view shed easement, which includes the, and I'll just change the language there too, with to match the other one. Any questions? Consistency with community character. This is that it was designed to look like a residence. The proposed action is consistent with predominant architectural scale and character. The proposed action incorporates landscaping, screening of the structure, parking only, which is in keeping with residences in the area. And the proposed action is consistent with the character of the existing natural landscape. Any questions about that? So I'm recommending with the resolution for the first part of the packet to adopt an amended negative declaration. And I'm going to tell Wayne he's wrong about something, but it's not filed with the DEC. I'm not quite sure. Maybe amended declarations are, but usually unlisted actions are just filed with the entity. So they're kept in our files and can be reviewed at any time, but they're not filed with DEC. That's when that's a type 1 action.
You're correct.
Say that. So I'm proposing. So the resolution before you, did you want me to read it? I don't know if, or just maybe the findings. It's up to the planning board.
You've just read the elaborated language, right?
Yes.
Included in the document.
Right, exactly.
And so what's the second part?
So the resolution itself would be the adoption of the amended declaration. I'll pull it up for you so you have it. It's not very long. So it says when the application was deemed complete, this is the description. The unlisted.
You have draft in progress though. Did you take that out of there or?
I always take that out, but as you work on it, you might want to add a word or two. So I always put draft in progress when you receive it, but I'll once it's adopted by you, I take that out. Okay. So this is the description of the project. The unlisted action that was initially adopted on April 22nd mentions the trail at the time. The planning board held the public hearings on May 13th, 2021 and June 10th, 2021. And comments were received during the hearing and the provided 30-day written comment period, which is stated in the draft staff reports, which we dated today. It's still draft because you haven't adopted it yet with the decision, but it is the same staff report. So it's up to you if you want me to say draft or just staff reports in this resolution.
You'll take it out when we approve it, right?
I can do that. Yes, exactly. The town board referred the application to interested agencies and departments, and a number of comments were received, which are outlined in the draft staff report dated today. The applicant in direct response to public comments raised during the public hearing process and comments received from referrals submitted an expanded environmental assessment prepared by InterScience dated December 2021, which includes the Shorts Ponds surface and groundwater evaluation report prepared by P.W. Grosser dated December 1st, 2021, and the phase 1 archaeological investigation in February of 2021. The applicant suggests the planning board consider amending the negative declaration pursuant to the provisions of SECRA to provide sufficient written elaboration to support the secret determination. Whereas in furtherance of the board's obligation to make a reasoned elaboration and provide reference to any supporting documentation pursuant to SECRA as it relates to an illicit action, the board is amending its negative declaration to incorporate these documents as part of the SECRA record and to provide a more sufficient and clear written explanation of the planning board's reasoning as lead agency of the negative declaration. To that end, the planning staff has prepared EAF Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, and a written narrative Part 3, providing a written elaboration and recommending an amended negative declaration. Excuse me, speak anywhere. Planning board finds, and this is, I just put ... I'll take that out, based upon the expanded environmental assessment and all those reports that I referenced before, and the Part 2, Part 3, and Part 3 narrative, that no significant adverse impacts may result from the proposed action. Now therefore be it resolved, the planning board of the town of Southampton hereby adopts an amended negative declaration for the Atlantic Golf Club employee housing application for your consideration.
So that's the one action, or you
That's
said
the first action. Yes.
that's the one action. So is there any further discussion on this?
I'm just questioning, should we clarify those dates? There's a lot of month without a date for the reports.
Well, that's what they're dated.
Oh,
I
that's-
can put the date they're received in there too. I just have to look those up.
Yeah,
But if that's more important to you, yeah, I can do that.
because it shows the timing, the
Mhm.
chronology of something, and this.
The report just says date prepared December 2021.
And that's what the report says. But
Yeah.
I can also say received, and actually in this case, the InterScience was received December 1st. I know that. So I can put that right in there. The archaeological investigation, I'd have to look that up. It might be March. So, but I can look that up and easily
Yeah, I
insert.
just like chronology to look proper for a record.
Okay, not a problem. I can add that.
So Claire, you will email us the this report after you correct it.
Absolutely. You'll get it.
Any more discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me put you on screen.
No further discussion. Wayne, you finished?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Dennis is moving it for approval. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. We have 5 in favor, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy. So it is passed. Thank you, Claire.
You're welcome. No problem.
Report. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Dennis.
Get the second part of this now.
There's another part of that.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll get to the decision. That's also been part of your packets. I will get to it. In this case, because we've reviewed this prior, September 9th was the last time we went through the staff report. I won't go through the staff report, but I will just go through the conditions if the board's comfortable with that.
Okay, you gonna pull it up, Claire?
Yep, I'll pull it up. And I have a couple little, changes too, but we talked about some of them with the secret determination, so. So this is the resolution. Here it's this finding summarizes that you amended the negative declaration on today. The rest is typical references, the public hearings and the agencies and the staff reports, which will be adopted. I'll change again any reference to, I'll add those dates in for the plan, things like that to any of the documents. If you want, we'll go through the wetlands permit application approval first.
Sure.
That is, this first section is all very typical with any application you do. It's the notification for any work. So 1 through 10 are the typical conditions with the site plan. 1 through 6 are the more specific to this project. The first one is always typical too. It's that the revised plan is the approved plan. That there's project limiting fence installed. Number 2. 3 is the proposed driveway and parking area with the exception of the ADA. Space need to be built with permeable pavers or cellular grass, reinforced concrete surface to allow for rainwater infiltration. So that's another mitigation factor, is that they're doing, the parking lot is not going to be paved except for the ADA requirements. So that's a good thing. The 100-foot non-fertilization, non-disturbance buffer is going to be an easement, and it'll be around the entire pond. It shall be allowed for the existing grassed area to be maintained, and that will be part of that maintenance plan for the meadow that we spoke about. And it'll have to be reviewed and approval, filed with the county clerk. The applicant's asking prior to building permit, and that seems to be reasonable. So all the easements required with the project, which would be the trail easements, the easement for the buffer here, and there's land banking easement that's also required, and the view shed easement.
Claire, can I stop you for 1 second? In that point 4, you talk about non-fertilization on that 100-foot buffer. I thought we said there would be no fertilizer used anywhere on the site plan. Am I not reading that correctly?
Yes, for this portion of the site associated with this use. That's what I say in number 6. But obviously the golf course is on the other side of Short Ponds. So it's going to have the non-fertilization in that portion also. So that portion on the other side of Shorts Pond, they could use fertilizer. I'm not quite sure where the golf course is specifically, but they could technically use fertilizer in that portion. So because Shorts Pond this will encompass all of Shorts Ponds on all sides. That's why, and that's a typical requirement. Do you want this part of a covenant? No pesticides and fertilizers for this portion of the sites?
Covenant would be good. I think a covenant is always stronger.
Okay. I mean, I think that's reasonable. I don't know if the applicant feels about that.
You're looking for an answer right now?
Yeah.
So the question is, you're talking about a totally separate condition that there be no pesticides or fertilizers on the upland area around the proposed staff housing.
Correct.
Yes.
I think that's fine, but maybe Dennis, who's here, who's giving me the thumbs up, that's fine.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay. Let's see in thumbs up. Okay. That sounds good. Okay. So I'll put that as a covenant. Does that answer your question, Gloria?
Yes, thank you very much.
Back to sharing screen. The housing shall be equipped with leaders and gutters that direct into stormwater runoff and just subsurface dry wells. and then no pesticides and fertilizers to be utilized in this portion of the site associated with the staff housing covenant shall be filed, and the typical requirement of town attorney approval.
And do you want on number 5 to put, I have to contain 3-inch rainfall? Seems like an appropriate place. With
I agree.
gutters to accommodate a 3-inch rainfall that directs stormwater runoff into subsurface dry wells.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. Okay. So the next action would be to adopt the staff report and the site plan improve the site plan application for the project on the plans submitted to date. And my changes to the site plan would be to indicate the location of the trail easement at 25 feet. On the plans, wide. Indicate the location of the scenic view shed easements on the property. Again, with the landscape plan the same. And I'm also going to ask for a new C for the landscape plan to locate the Russian olive and to indicate it to be removed. The only other thing is I noted, if you look at the site plan, I'll bring it up real quick. I was in it. I'm just going to show you the site plan real quick. Part of the proposed, you can see it better here, the proposed sanitary system may encroach in the view shed. You don't see the view shed easement here. You see it more on this plan. It looks like maybe even the expansion pool might be in there. So I don't know if the board cares whether that occurs, because obviously it's not affecting the view shed if you put an expansion pool in that view shed easements, but we'd want it to be spelled out, and if that's the case, or just move the expansion pool for the sanitary system. I'm not quite sure. I brought it up to the applicant if they could address it.
Is it visual? Well, I mean, what do you see?
Underground.
It's underground.
It's underground.
Yeah, but you know, if in 15 years you put the expansion pool in and I drive by and I yell at you because you're touching view shed. So you just want people to know of it. So you're fine with the expansion pool being in there, just want it spelled out in the easement that they're allowed to do that? Does that sound fine to you, the board? Any questions about that? Okay, we'll just spell it out. So have them show it on the plan.
Claire, I would just, while you're talking about locating the trail easement, the scenic view shed easement, we would also want to show that buffer area that extends. As you looked at the site plan, we didn't, depict the other side of the pond. So you would want us to provide something to show you that area.
Right, the whole trail, is that what you're saying?
No, the buffer that you're looking for above.
Oh, the buffer, so to show the whole, yep.
Or at least
The north side of the
give you a
pond.
survey that shows where that buffer is, so you can see the description.
Right. The
And it will
non-disturbance.
acknowledge, by the way, that buffer will acknowledge not only what you said is the golf course, but there is a barn that is within 100 feet of the pond on the west side as well.
Oh, okay.
That is
Do you see that on the aerial? Is that better to see it on the aerial? No, it doesn't really show that.
No.
Oh, I think that, isn't there, no,
No, it's before then.
yeah,
But I think the point is to get the description, a separate description for you so you can see that. And we're fine
Okay.
with that.
okay. Okay, description of the non-fertilization, non-disturbance buffer, okay. Okay, I think it's back to the general conditions, unless anybody else has any questions.
I just have a question about there are virtually no details of the building itself, the number of bedrooms in terms of defining this. So
Okay,
mean, has that,
Part of the plans that were submitted, so you can reference.
yeah, but it's not in the language is all I'm saying. It doesn't, it reference it at all, it just says a 6,500 square foot building. Doesn't say anything more than that.
Okay,
And I believe that we should define it as it was presented to us, to document it and have a record of it.
okay. Number of bedrooms, it's a 2-story building, number of bedrooms. I'll put that right in the description.
Number of, yeah, baths, kitchen, et cetera.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Is it okay if I put it in the staff report? I'll put the number of bedrooms in the decision. I'll put the rest of it as details in the staff report. Does that sound okay?
Mm,
Or you want kitchens?
it should be in the resolution, what we're approving.
Then I'll do it as a finding. Is that okay? Like this is the description.
Finding
prior-
first.
Yeah, I'll put it as a finding. I'll put the, in the descriptions though, I'll put the number of bedrooms in all descriptions. Does that sound good?
I think
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, we don't have it in front of us. I'm never really like approving something that we're editing so much, but
Do you know how many bedrooms for the record, Wayne?
I don't know the number of bedrooms, but it is certainly no more than 16 employees. So, and maybe Dennis or Tony, who may be on, can tell us how many bedrooms, but certainly you have the plans before you. But I had, suggested to Claire earlier that the description there be 6,500 square foot, 2-story building for additional employee housing for 16 employees. In the resolution itself, but I don't have a problem if Claire, puts in a provision that is referring to the plans that are on record that you reviewed, and that becomes part of the approval.
okay. Will you
Okay.
do that, Claire?
Yep, no problem. So 60, I'll put 16 employees, number of bedrooms, and then I'll do a finding with the description of kitchens, laundry area,
Right?
all that. How's that sound?
Parking for X number of cars.
Parking, yep.
Yeah,
8
that's all.
spaces are installed and 8 are linked. That I do know off the top of my head. Okay. Good. Any other questions before I go through the general conditions? So the general conditions I had started, and I think I had it wrong because for my notes I had May 1st, but it that kind of doesn't make any sense because golf starts earlier than that. We had April 1st, but I think the applicant wants to speak about this issue. The first condition, though, the area disturbance shall be staked out prior to construction inspected by this department. So that's going to be a requirement. I think the board wanted that. Do you want to talk about this occupancy requirement, Wayne?
It's inspected by this department, meaning the planning staff,
Planning staff. Yep.
versus Marty's department as well, or?
No, planning staff inspects it with a wetlands permit.
So you might want to say by the planning staff.
I'm going to, yeah, that sounds good. That's clarification. So B, do you want to speak to that, Wayne?
Yes, my understanding, we did back in September, I think when this was raised, had a discussion and that we were not going to pursue that because the building needs to be occupied year round, not necessarily by all employees, but they may have 1 or 2 at least maintaining the building. But certainly the problem is having no occupancy over the winter is a problem. And Mr. Susskind is here if you want some further explanation to that. Dennis, if you want to speak, you got to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair and the board. It's our experience that it's important to have a person, 1 or 2 people in the building, in our buildings all year round to protect it, to watch it, make sure it's okay. Especially these days, people are breaking into buildings and all sorts of things are happening. So we respectfully request that we can have limited occupancy during the winter.
I think that would define it. I think that's reasonable to protect the investment. Can we say a skeletal staff of no more than 2? Do you want to word it
Two,
that
I mean,
way?
I'd prefer three, but I'll follow your
Well,
lead if it's important. Because people go on vacation, but I'll just something.
Did the prior record review indicate no residential use in the winter?
No, this just came up on this draft. We didn't see it before this.
Yeah.
That was part of the comments that we had at the time from my notes, and they were probably very messy, but I didn't come up with this by myself. So, but we could do limited, we could do percentage, 25%, not in off season, it could be 25% or less.
Well, I would assume there's groundwork underway right now with this weather. This is, where are we, the second week in December? And what happens in, I mean, what is winter? December 21st?
We have people working on projects at the golf course right now. You're absolutely right. I just, to be candid, I'm getting old in this process, and I just have to get it done. So, 25% would work for us.
25%.
Or none. If the board doesn't want the condition, that's fine. Those were my notes from.
I'm just trying to understand the purpose of the condition before we impose one. What are
If
we,
you don't want it, I'll take it out.
I'm just trying to understand the reasoning before I impose or request a condition and come up with an arbitrary number. Is there a reason that we're restricting the housing during the winter of staff?
I don't know of any reason that you are restricting. We have projects all year round.
I think we should, I agree with you, Lauren, Robin. I think we should omit it.
Unless there's a good reason, I don't want to be restrictive just for the sake of being restrictive.
Right. Gives the applicant flexibility, the property owner flexibility. They may be undertaking renovations in the other housing, and they might need to move some employees in here temporarily during the winter months. So I agree with you, Robin.
Any other board members have any concerns with that? I'll just eliminate it. Okay, great.
So what are we eliminating? I'm confused now. You're saying,
I don't see the necessity of the restriction.
The seasonal language, yeah,
the seasonal language.
Yes.
yes.
We're approving housing. Without a good reason, I don't know why we're restricting it seasonally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. B is struck. 3B is struck. So do you want me to go back to the conditions then? Any other questions?
Yep.
Go back, please.
Comply with the fire marshal requirements. That's standard. If there's HVAC systems or any other utility should be screened. No dust or dawn lighting fixtures. All lighting should project downward. LED is 3,000 Kelvin or less per the code.
Why don't we just use the language as well, addition to the lighting? It has to comply with dark sky regs.
That's that our regulations. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and dark skies. I mean, ours are based on dark sky compliance.
Okay, I can say yes, but these are just, I'm sorry, these are just typical conditions we've been carrying through with site plans forever. I just want to, these are helpful though, so that there's a condition right in your decision when people are in violation.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than just, we can point not only to the town code, but we can point to your decision saying this. And so that's why we have these conditions like this. Okay.
I think Jackie's just suggesting adding the terminology dark skies.
We can do that.
Reference the code.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. I can reference the code after these. That's not a problem. Sure. H is the no public address system. I is the site inspections necessary. And J is the no pesticides. We don't need this if we have a covenant. So I'll move this to be a covenant submitted prior to a building permit. So J, okay?
Okay, is the covenant, excuse my confusion, is the covenant on the no pesticides of fertilizer, is that have dimensions or is it the entire?
It's gonna have dimensions.
It will have
It's
dimension.
It's
Yep.
gonna be the area, you're already gonna have that restriction in the conservation buffer
I
around
know,
the
that's what
pond,
I'm
but this is gonna be that, basically the remaining portion of this site where the facility is, so we can
Okay.
define that.
Yeah, I just want to get some dimensions or
Right.
specificity in there.
So Claire can clarify that.
Well, that's what, that was the point that I was kind of questioning earlier, that I thought I saw that they weren't going to fertilize around the building.
Right. And that's what J is here, what Claire is
Yes.
saying, that will
Will
be
be a
incorporated.
covenant
into the
now.
covenant.
And,
Okay.
okay.
And it will have dimensions. It will
Then-
be a covenant and it will be submitted prior to a building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. So items to be submitted prior to conditional approval is, I just need some information on A is the lighting fixtures, town engineer fee. So these C and D and E. So I talked to Wayne about this a little bit. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 legal documents. The first one will be the non-fertilization, non-disturbance buffer easements, which would be the 100 feet around Shorts Ponds. The second document will be the view shed easements. I've kind of put them in one, but I think it's better because they're two different purposes.
You should split them.
Right.
And it's always referred to as a scenic view shed easement, right?
Right. So this, with this condition, I'll say within the view shed easement that there will be a maintenance plan that will be approved by Marty Shea and the planning board. So I might have a condition up above that says that too, just so you know. D is the trail easement that'll be 25 feet wide. Then there'll be the land bank covenant for the 8 parking spaces. And then there'll be non-fertilization. I'm sorry, the no pesticides, no fertilization in the area with the description as Robin had pointed out. So that will be all prior to a building permit. This is the affidavit required prior and the.
Excuse me, Claire, where are you spelling this out? Are you just editing it now as you're going in, or are the
Yeah, well,
details?
it's here. It's here, the scenic easements and the conservation preservation, but I'm splitting that into 2.
I understand that.
And we just added the no pesticides and fertilizer as a covenant. First, it was a condition up here, see?
Right, yes.
But now it's going to be a covenant. So that will be added prior to building.
And you're adding the meadow. Okay, I have one question about the meadow plan. Is
Yep.
that the entirety of the landscaping plan, or is there a separate landscaping plan?
There is a separate landscaping plan, but now there's going to be a meadow plan that they'll have to come up with, and you'll review it with
Right.
Marty's assistance.
Okay, is that going to be in 4? Should that be in 4?
Right.
And
It's going to be in, when we describe the easements, it's going to refer to this plan, the plan for the meadow.
Okay, and is there a separate landscaping plan? That's what I'm just trying to understand.
There is a separate landscaping plan that's been considered, but there will be, as part of that, a meadow plan.
Okay, where is that landscaping plan? Is it under 4 for an item to be submitted as a condition?
There's a landscape plan submitted to date. It's referred to here.
Okay, wait, I'm looking to see where you're.
So the landscape plan, but now there's going to be a meadow plan.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that in there.
I
Okay,
understand.
So Claire, you're just gonna add it to paragraph 2 that there
Right.
is submission, but frankly, I want to just clarify, when you say meadow plan, it's more about management of the existing meadow. We're not going necessarily in there and planting anything. It's more about how it will be mowed or whatever based on the input we get from Marty.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah, meadow management plan, correct.
Right, okay.
So that's the biannual mowing, how often you mow, basically, and the description of where, right?
Exactly.
So if we just look at, the aerial, just real quick, that will be a description within view shed. I just want to make sure we all understand that. Where is that?
So Claire, that could be an added sheet to the landscape plan that shows that area and it'll have notes about its management.
Yeah,
That was exactly what I was suggesting. If we can get the landscaping and the meadow plan into the same section, so there's a consistency.
Yeah, we'll add like, if necessary, either on the existing landscape plan, revise that, or we'll
Right.
provide a third sheet, which is specifically to that.
Right. I have no objection either way. I just wanted to connect the two. That's why I brought that up.
That's good.
I think that makes sense. Let's do that. Okay. Okay, so that was back here. So we'll add the meadow management plan to the landscape plan. Okay. Subject to review and approval by the planning board and Marty. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Great. And we'll go back and then the 6 sets of plans and the maintenance bond for any landscaping with the project.
Okay.
So there's some edits. I'll get them to you as soon as I complete it. But I'm recommending a decision on this project.
Well, we're at action deadline. Correct? Are we at an action deadline? Yes.
Yes.
We are.
No. I'm muted. Any other discussion? Motion to approve
Motion.
by Robin, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Claire, will you get that to us as soon as you can?
You'll have it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the board.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
And Ryan.
Have a good holiday. See you
Yes,
next
happy
year.
holidays to you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Fairfield, Claire,
Yes.
have a
This
maintenance
is-
bond.
Yeah. Relates to the maintenance bonds. Go to that. Want to show you. So this project is complete. It is, I think, I didn't touch the aerial. I'm sorry about that. There was some road work in the right of way for Tuckahoe Road that the town board held a bond related to the site plan on the project, and that work has been completed and it's been in place for a year. And so this is the release of that maintenance bond of $12,369.
This has nothing to do with the landscaping, additional landscaping that they.
No,
put in.
that was all released and that's been in
That was
place.
released.
And I think it's in keeping with your site plan, so. Yep,
Yes,
this
it
is
looks
the
so much better. So I have a motion for this. Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Okay, Hampton Bays District, Rogers Way.
Yep, if you give Charles a second, he's gonna let a couple people in. I see Kristen McCabe. I see Ray Muehlbauer. And I think that's correct. This is for the signage associated with the Amazon building in Hampton Business District. Let me share my screen here.
Do we have an example of the existing signage that's already on the buildings?
Yeah, we have a master sign plan for the project.
And so does this comply?
This is different than that. So they're asking for something that is differing from the master sign plan for the project. And that is to have the Amazon lettering in this way on the building. So this is the building and this is the sign here. And this is what would face Collins.
I don't remember. Do other locations have signs designating the buildings? I'm trying to picture it in my mind's eye.
Yeah, do you have it? Can we see some of the other signage?
I can do a little digging, sure.
Well, the applicant would have it. Kristen, do you have some of the signage you could show us?
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I was in another meeting, so I just popped in. So yeah, I can share my screen for the approved signage master plan if that shows, and it shows the typical business identification sign.
Right.
Okay.
Just so you know, the ARB has indicated their approval of these signs. They reviewed it at their last meeting.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so this was the typical business identification sign specs. And this is what all of the 3 existing buildings, 200, 220, and 2 Rogers Way, are all consistent with the business identification signs over the main entry to each of the tenant spaces.
So is that Amazon logo the same typeface?
There is no logo proposed for the Amazon business identification sign.
Just the word Amazon.
Correct. Yeah. If you can see, it says logos and photographs not allowed.
Okay.
Obviously, it's not very dramatic because I can't, in my mind's eye, think of driving by there constantly. I don't remember ever seeing one. So
It's
that's
it's
I have a-
tasteful.
I have a photo of one of the buildings from the site, if that's helpful.
yeah. Could you?
Sure.
I can't come up with one.
Yeah, sorry, I'll stop sharing.
All
Okay.
visual aids are welcome when we're
Yeah,
looking at
thank
stuff
you.
that's visual.
Thank you.
Just to
So
identify.
I had to zoom in, so it's a little bit fuzzy, but
God,
these
it-
are,
Yeah, I see. Mhm. Yes.
okay.
Obviously, it's not offensive.
No, it works beautifully with the architecture.
Yeah.
So the Amazon is not using their little swirl logo. They're just the word Amazon.
Correct.
And in the same location, pretty much as the other signage is.
Yes, and the same color. It's like a dark gray.
Okay. Okay, I have no problems with that. And you have 2 of them on the long building, or let's go back to the
Yeah,
proposal.
the western and the southern elevation.
Okay.
corner.
Any questions? Recommend approval?
Yeah,
Move it.
Moved by Robin,
Second.
second by Craig, all in favor.
All right.
Abstention, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Good, thanks. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you for your time. Have a good
Thank
one.
you.
Happy holidays, everyone.
The holidays.
Claire,
And-
your last one is the Watermill Village townhouses with the soil.
Yeah, so this is an amendment to the the soil management plan that you had adopted back in October on the project. So the consideration, the applicant has submitted a revised soil management plan. In essence, it's actually trucks any contaminated soil off the property. So that is actually what the town engineer the entire time was trying to get them to do, and they finally agreed to it. So they've amended their mass soil management plan to do that. We referred it to Stephanie, and I received a comments back from her, which I have. And somehow I can't get to Can't get, maybe if I stop sharing for a second. Yeah, there we go. She came back and she approved the revisions. In summary, the proposed removal and offsite disposal of the arsenic impacted soil is an acceptable alternative to capping the impacted soil on property, may result in better long-term environmental conditions. That's JCB, which is the soil management company who prepared the soil management plan. Correspondence indicates that certain measures will be implemented to control conditions that might otherwise result in community impacts. We recommend that a truck route and schedule be established to reduce potential traffic impacts. So this is a great comment that she had. So if you're acceptable to that, I will have that as a condition of approval, that a truck management plan be submitted in addition to the conditions that the town engineer had, which is in the resolution.
I mean, the going.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just asking, where is the soil going? It's not coming to another spot in Southampton, is it?
No.
In another.
They specify that it goes to a particular site,
area?
accepts those kinds of soils.
I know, but it's not in, we're not.
It's not in Southampton, no.
Hey, Claire, I have a question.
DEC approved treatment, storage, and disposal facility. Go
I'm
ahead.
asking if it's in
Right.
Southampton.
I have a question.
Before we
Yes,
do,
go ahead.
Dennis, yeah.
Oh, I don't know whether it's concluded. What happens in these large projects, and this becomes acute, particularly this time of year, that there's a large stockpiling of soil on site. And then the project gets underway, and then the winter comes and things slow down, and there's massive piles of soil, and then you get these horrific winds from the southwest. Now this project is surrounded, very close proximity to residential neighborhoods. There's an office complex. Would this plan require some sort of netting or stabilization over any stockpile soil, or is that kind of the SWIP plan? Does that fall under the SWIP plan?
It falls under the SWIP plan. And if you want more specification, we can certainly include it.
Well,
in
the SWIP, if they're covered, if the SWIP plan covers it, just requires that any on-site soil be stabilized and not migrate off-site, because it especially comes into play in these large projects, especially on the North Highway and this project. I can see there's going to be massive amounts of soil being moved and then stockpiled. As long as the SWIP plans covers it, I think covered, but I didn't know whether this was the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think this goes even a step further. If you look at this first condition that the town engineer has, they're going to put ambient and particle monitoring. They're going to monitor the air for this property because they don't want that airborne.
Are we imposing that condition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be a big component of this.
And also SWIP, what Dennis is saying?
Yes. We can just do a general condition that any soil shall be, stabilized in such a way to not have the particulate airborne, right? That's I think that is related to that first condition. So we'll have that. You want me to add that language?
Yes.
Sure.
Can we go back to my question? I noted that it says to a DEC approved. I'd like to make sure it's not a DEC approved in Southampton.
We can make that a condition. If they don't like that condition, they have to come back. That's fine with me.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking. So I want to just make sure we're not moving it from one part of our district to another.
I don't want it to go to Sandland down the block.
I didn't say that.
I have no problem with that.
Well,
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, so put outside the town of Southampton.
Yeah. I'll say the planning board finds that if it is, when it's disposed in DEC approved treatment storage disposal facility, it shall not be in the town of Southampton.
Yeah, I agree with that step.
I don't want this problem becoming another section of our town's problem.
Right.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Somewhere else.
Okay, so we have those changes.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the soil as Dennis stated. I'm gonna say not in Southampton as a condition and a
Mhm.
finding. And I'm also going to put in Stephanie's reports in reference and her recommendation for a transportation routes.
But these trucks are going to be coming in and out, right? They don't tell us how many trucks and how long it'll take.
It's going to be up to 160 trucks.
And when do they start to do this? In the spring or now or what?
When they do start, they're going to have to notify us. And they're also going to have to, before they start, they're going to have an approved transportation route plan. And that is up to, I mean, I can look at that and I'll know that don't do that at 7 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So there should be some design with that makes sense. And it should be on Montauk Highway that they can't use any side roads too. I mean,
So they have to come in from Montauk Highway. What
Yeah.
happens if they damage off-site sidewalks and roadways? Since in
So-
New York State, we can't impose any kind of off-site mitigation.
they have to get approved. They gotta have approval from the New York State to do their curb cut. So this is all approved by the New York State DOT. If they have any impact on their road, they'll know it. And if it's a town road, which is Noadona, we're not signing off on them either before they can repair it.
Claire, who is Stephanie?
Stephanie is from FPM, and that is your expert that reviewed the initial soil management plan. So I referred this to her. There was a little bit extra money, and she reviewed it for you.
I just didn't remember the name.
Yeah, sorry. So she's been Stephanie Davis from FPM. She's your soil management expert.
On this truck plan, I understand it's coming back to us, but do you think it should also go to like someone like Ryan Murphy in public safety or the police department or anybody else? Because these trucks are going to be affecting our traffic plan, our public safety plan. I understand planning, checking it, but should Ryan Murphy in public safety or the police department or anywhere else be looking at this?
I think you're capable of looking at it, but if you want maybe the town engineer to take a peek at it, I think that would be appropriate.
Also,
We don't have a traffic person per se.
public safety.
What's the public safety concern?
The truck movement, doesn't Ryan take a look at more than just traffic, but the interference this might have with police and fire? Is there someone, you said 160 trucks, I'm just picturing a spring afternoon and these trucks moving through a district.
That's why you should look at a plan, but I think you're capable of thinking that it's reasonable or not.
All right. Okay.
I think that, if they have a plan to avoid the high peak traffic times and to the actual route shall be main roads. No, I mean, that's what we're looking for in this case.
In many towns, they do this kind of work in the evening hours after traffic.
Could do that. Yep.
So we can take a look at that. We have an opportunity to look at it. And I think the town engineer looking at it is also.
I was just wondering if
positive.
anybody else should have eyes on it.
I don't think he does that, Robin, but whoever does. Okay,
If we don't
so
have a traffic engineer, a traffic specialist, that would be helpful.
yeah, we don't have one, right?
I know that.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve this as amended? Gloria, moved by Gloria, and second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy.
And I'm going to find out about the timing for the work session. I'll be back.
Okay, and then we can adopt that. So
Yep.
it's 3:45 now. We have to be out by 5:30, so just a reminder, Jackie Fenlon, you're next with Curtis Heimowitz and Nussbaum. You have a draft report.
Yeah, actually, we were hoping to have the survey updated with all the wetland setbacks. And because we weren't able to get that back in time, I spoke with the applicant's representative, Heather Wright, if you would like to let her in. And we're just going to adjourn this until January 13th. So you have a visual to see where all the setbacks are going to be located.
Great. So,
And
So just be, oh, sorry, Gloria, go ahead.
yeah, I have a note that on page 6,
Mhm.
there's a condition that refers to a totally different application. So
Yeah,
I
you
think
know
they
what?
may-
I do apologize. I think I was working on it while the agenda got run. So
Okay.
it was an older version. So don't worry, I'll clean that all up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
so Heather, welcome. So we can get an extension on this until January 13th.
I think so. I think it would be beneficial for the board
Okay.
to actually see the proposed buffer as well as easement area shown on the survey. I just want to make sure that it's very clear for everyone, the location of the existing trees and what we're talking about with respect to the imposition of the buffer. So yes, I'm fine with that.
Great. Okay, thank you. So can I have a motion to extend this to January 13 by Gloria and second by Robin? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Thank you.
Jackie, are we doing Berkshire Court?
Hmm?
Is that off Berkshire
Was
number 8?
off the agenda.
Number
Just-
11,
Okay,
number
I'm-
11 is off and
8.
number 8 was off. Yeah,
8, okay,
yeah.
I missed that one.
So we're going now to number 12, the Woods at Hampton Bays.
Yes, and the applicants for this one are Michael Strauss, Ken Beckman, the surveyor, as well as there may be a representative from Campo Brothers. If you could let them in, Charles.
Only the Campbell brothers.
Okay, they might,
Is that a law firm?
no, they're the actual developer.
They're developers.
So I just want to make sure I have the right attachments up. All right, so we approved this on September 23rd, 2021. At the very end of the conversation, the applicant's representative just gave the planning board an idea that they might have to start clearing this winter because of the presence in the area to the north of the northern long-eared bats. So there is occurrence. I did double check with the New York State DEC regarding the standards. We read through the standards. I also consulted with our environment division. The only real true restriction here is that they can't clear through March through November 30th. So now that we're in the month of November, they have approved road and drainage plans.
We're in December, Jackie.
Yeah, so they're allowed to clear from December 1st till February 28th. So they are here to ask you, since they have approved road and drainage plans, they just acquired health department approval on December 10th, which you had waived earlier in the spring. They are now ready to comply with the plan. I am comfortable. I walked the site. One of the things that I wanted to finalize, because engineering reviewed it and they had their pre-construction meeting, which is fine. I wanted to make sure, because we had asked them to provide the street trees. So I wanted to make sure those street trees were noted, which I went there last Friday. They had all been flagged for being kept on the road. I wanted to show you that plan. So let's see, it's towards the end. So see all these trees, because it's in the aquifer protection, one of the conditions of our approval was the road and drainage plan notes all the trees that could be retained as street trees. So as not to cut down the existing mature growth and plant a new tree, you know, what a waste that is. So these trees were all marked and I walked the site last Friday. So I just wanted to let you know that. And this is the proof of their December 10th, 2021 health department approval, because that was something that I was not comfortable allowing them to clear the lots until health department had weighed in and given their approval. So this is their letter to allow them to start clearing of the lots. We have already authorized the road and drainage to be starting to be cleared. So I was there on Friday and they had started doing the basic clearing for the road right of way. This is also a letter we received, and I actually spoke with Mr. Chip Hamilton last week to confirm everything. And then this is the information from the DEC on the northern long-eared bats, which you can see. Let's see, trying to see if it has the.
Doesn't the
Oh, here it
DC
is.
talk about no removal of trees because they're potential nesting sites?
Yeah, so the only thing right now is they're only trying to protect the habitat. They do have to stop work if they witness any bats on site. So that's one of the conditions I have outlined. And then I just wanted to show you here, the protective measures cut sheet allows for in Suffolk County, December through February 28th. To have clearing. So basically they want to get all their clearing done for the road and the lots right now. So that way they can do it efficiently and, you know, during the clearing allowance time. So I do have a resolution where I have all of this information kind of outlined, the deadlines, et cetera, that they can clear from December 1st to February 28th. So it's just, you know, it's a tight window for them. And with conditions of this, I just wanted to go through these so it's clear and let me know if you'd like to add anything. The planning board requires compliance with the New York State DEC regulations regarding potential impacts to the federal and state threatened northern long-eared bat, and the applicant shall continually check in with the New York State DEC regarding any changes to these regulations. When I spoke to the representative from the DEC, he said he did not anticipate any changes immediately, but if there were any changes, it would happen in the next calendar year.
I'm sorry, Jackie, is there any monitoring during the process?
Right.
You know what, the applicants did reference that there's a gentleman named Tom Kramer, who I think is somebody who basically like is an expert in the northern long-eared bats. When I spoke with the contractor, he said Tom Kramer had come and done a walkthrough and did not see any evidence of bats. They did, the bat that they located was about 1.5 miles to the north of the site. So we're in the habitat area, but no bats have been witnessed here. But yes, I mean, this will be continually checked by the DEC. I don't know how often, but I can check with them and ask them about that. Essentially what happens though, from my understanding, not being a bat expert, but that these bats do not generally, they're here basically in the summer. So generally they fly north or inland and they find more like caves to winter in. But in the summer, they're roosting in the trees. But very interestingly, when I was talking to him, they can be in developed areas as well. So it's not just pristine woodlands. These bats are here. And I think the gentleman, when I spoke to him, he even said that there was a bat found in the siding of a house in Shirley or Mastic. So they're here. And I think with our warmer winters too, they're staying here longer because the food source around here is better. But the only restrictions at this point is that they only clear from December 1st till February 28th.
Can you include that date in number 1?
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
Or number 2?
Yep.
Maybe 2 is better.
2, okay. December 1st through February 28th.
And what erosion control measures are you referencing?
They're going to have erosion control. It's been reviewed by our town engineer and through the SWIP plan. So they're going to have erosion control fencing, which is basically a wire mesh back and with that black silt fabric. So that's the erosion control that's necessary. So they did have every clearing envelope already marked out. They hadn't installed the erosion control yet, but they are fully aware that they have to install that along with the SWIP plan.
So what you really need to say is the proper erosion control measures as approved by the engineer and SWIP should be utilized. I mean, I think these have to be more specific, Jackie.
Sure, I can do that. Not a problem. I'll say through road plans and SWIP because the SWIP takes into account all of the development.
Right. And to Craig's point, who is monitoring that? Who is this person? You know,
it's generally the New York State DEC, and if they're aware of it, they will go and investigate. They did say that there wasn't an acoustic reading in this location, but you know, Michael Strauss might be able to tell me who Tom Kramer is because I do know the name, but I just don't know his affiliation.
He's not with the DEC.
Say that again, Michael. Are you on?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, you're a little muffled.
Okay, sorry, we're doing the best we can with it.
Okay.
Tom Kramer is an environmental consultant who works with us, who did the whole SWIPs. And in fact, many, many years ago, he was in practice with large engineering firms and environmental consulting. He's actually the director of planning in the town of Brookhaven, and he's been dealing with all aspects of environmental planning for about 35 years, 40 years, and he assists us with anything like this. And you've seen the site, you can come out to the site, the DEC visits the site. It's evidently extremely safe to clear during that window from December 1st to February 28th. In fact, it would be safer for a larger window, but they limit it to that time to be absolutely sure that that is not a time that any bats, if they were at the site, which doesn't even appear to be right in this particular area, would not be nesting in trees. They simply would
They
not.
hibernate underground during the winter.
As Ruby said, they hibernate underground during the winter in caves. And so this is a time that the DEC would like this all to be all done. And I think we all would like it to be done at this time. So there's no chance of disturbing the bats. That's the whole point of going through everything we've been trying to get done here to meet all the requirements so we can get started with the clearing.
So let me just ask a question. Property is in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
it's a Pine Barrens compatible area. Do we know exactly what is being cleared?
We
So that
do.
there's no over clearing?
Yes, they have a limit of disturbance and it was all noted. It was actually, the surveyor actually staked it all at the site. So I witnessed that as well as the street trees, and they do have disturbance plans that are shown here.
Wow, so
So-
they're going to clear every building site, so.
Yeah, so they're retaining the 15-foot buffer, which has been staked out, and then they've staked all of the clearing. And it's actually very clearly marked when I was there last Friday.
Well, we've had this, Jackie, this same situation in other large developments like this, where the builders, though we have restrictions, the builders come in because they say they can only come in the front and they take a tree down or they overclear. How can we eliminate that here from happening?
So I already advised the developer and his associates that this has to be very well done. And that's why I wanted to make sure that everything was marked out. They did a very good job marking out all the disturbance areas and the road. I walked the full site here. And then, when I was first there last week, they didn't mark the trees, which, is important, but not really Tom's responsibility in engineering. But I don't know if you want to enforce another condition, but this has been.
I have a thought.
Okay.
Why don't we hire someone to oversee this?
It's,
But we already
Madam
have
Chairman,
someone.
if I might, we have inspections that are required for the SWIPs, and Tom Kramer will be making those inspections and assure you that we are complying with all those requirements, which are obviously very strict.
We have a limit of ground disturbance at a single time.
And we will adhere to the limit of ground disturbance that were allowed at that particular time with the SWIPs. And obviously, we will not only will we never exceed anything that's required, but if we ever did, the town would shut us down and say we, can't continue. And we, of course, would never want that to happen. And I think, as Ms. Fenlon told you, this has been extremely carefully marked. Our excavator, who is extremely experienced, I'm not just saying that, 40 years, Ed Short, met with the representatives and the engineers of the town. And I think they probably have a comfort level that he knows exactly what has to be done. It's all clearly marked, and we are definitely going to follow all the rules. We always do, but especially in this case where this has been highlighted way over and above what is even normally the case, we're going to be extremely careful.
We're going to be
to meet
installing
all the requirements.
Mike,
Extremely careful.
Michael, do you have a full-time on-site supervisor or someone? Because we had this happen. I can think of 2 projects of great builders where somebody just went in and went, oops, sorry, we kind of cleared an area we weren't supposed to. and things happen. Is there an on-site full-time supervisor? So if we note this, or we get a call or a complaint, there is someone quickly.
They have a super Pat Beach. He would be here from time to time at this stage. He's of course there more often as the houses are built, because that's primarily what he does, but we can definitely get you his contact information and you can reach him anytime.
I think that that's a good idea, and I think it's absolutely critical with this size project. Jackie, I think you need to look into it.
Yeah, I mean, and this is right across from Red Creek Park. So this is also easy for me to stop by on my way into work, on my way home from work. So I'm able to also check on it. But one thing that I did make a suggestion to the actual excavator was to actually move forward with split rail fence so that we can delineate the open space area. So that was one of my concerns as well. I think that would be good because we're going to install that no matter what it's required along the open space boundary here. And that gives excavators a good idea of where the public entity begins versus private. I also asked if and I think we could impose this as a reasonable condition in areas where the clearing building envelope, the orange construction fence. So that way it's just not the smaller erosion control, but actually something when somebody's using a large machine can see more easily, that 4-foot orange construction fence. So I think that could be an appropriate measure. So that way it's a easier visual when you're in the middle of the woods with all this, excavating going on.
But I also like the idea of having someone that we can call immediately, not Michael, he's busy, he's an attorney, but somebody who a call can be made, can stop the project if there's a problem.
Yeah, so I did meet Pat on site when I was initially there last week.
Is that who, Michael, is that who you want? Michael?
Yeah, I mean, it can be both Pat Beach and or Ed Short. We can give you the contact information for both. Because Ed is the one who's hands-on, doing the excavation. We can get you both their cell phones. It's not a problem.
Yeah, Michael, if you could just email me all of their direct contact information, Pat, Ed, as well as Tom Kramer. That way I can save all their information and I can reach out to them directly.
Not a problem.
I've got a 2-word response to all this. Vintage vines.
Yes.
That's exactly. I didn't want to mention the name of it, but that's exactly what I was referring to.
Yeah.
And
They go in, same thing.
Let me just say, I've done a bunch of building on these small lots. And the practicalities of getting machines, equipment, septic structures, trenching underground.
Right.
And you're doing curbing, right, in here?
It's mountable.
Yeah, Belgian block curbing. So if you've ever seen curbing, they've got to do a big overcut.
It's a lot. I mean,
it's a lot.
It seems to me that rather than have twice a month, an overclearing situation come in for the planning board, which is double the work, that we really need to have monitoring done up front. And we need to have just more restrictions on this. Otherwise, we're being naive about it.
Well, the front buffer, how wide is the front buffer again, Jackie?
15 foot.
I mean, yeah.
It's a 50-foot right-of-way with a 24-foot wide road with mountable curbing. They've already located all of the trees and they have marked every single 15-foot buffer with the appropriate driveway. I mean, so they've marked it all.
We'll see how it goes, but we have to be prepared to augment this because there's going to be a lot of impact to the front buffer. The rear, not so much, but the front and especially the front buffer.
Yeah.
And all those trucks coming in and are these individual septics or?
Yeah.
They are individual septics, yes.
Oh boy, we didn't require.
If I may, Madam Chairman, and I don't want to speak for Jackie, she can tell you herself because I think she's worked with us very closely and been very helpful. And I think she realizes she's dealing with professionals who are doing everything possible to meet every requirement. No matter what the situation, a job like this, almost everything would be done in about a 2-month period. This isn't the kind of thing where if it wasn't a situation where this would just go on and on and on. So regardless, you're always going to have a situation in a job like this where someone comes in and cuts in the road and does a lot of clearing in the excavation for the septic systems. And we just happen to have it in this window now. And by the way, we'd be in the same place next year, the year after that, if this couldn't get done, because we only have this 3-month window every year that we can do this. And at this point, because it's already December 16th, and if we're fortunate enough to get your approval, we're going to have, you know, the holidays about 2 months to do this. It's really the same thing that would happen to make you feel more comfortable in any project that someone would go through initially, and in that 6-8 weeks, they're going to do the vast majority of everything anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not an unusual situation in that regard. It just happens to be one that I think is as closely monitored and will be as anything you'll ever have in the town. This isn't where there's just going to be some oversight or mistake. This has really been done as carefully as I've ever seen anyone try to do this. So, I mean, that's all I really have to say in that regard.
Yeah, we appreciate that, but it's going to be a struggle, and you know, but we appreciate your efforts.
I don't really think it's going to be a struggle as far as the town's concerned. I think the town is going to be totally satisfied with everything we do, because we are 1000% determined to make sure that's the case.
It's going to be to your benefit, because the more of that buffer you can retain, the less planting and, you know, filling you're going to have to do.
No one wants to take down any trees, and it's expensive to cart them away, and you want to have the privacy for the residents. No one wants to ever take down more trees than you have to take down.
Yeah.
And Dennis, I did meet with the excavator on site, and he did say he's very conservative and he understands. And when I was there, he had done the initial excavation and tree removal for the road, and he did a very good job. I mean, it was a very tight, probably 18-foot area that he initially cleared, and those trees were all very nicely, neatly laid. There was not a lot of scoring. There are some areas with topo, so, you know, here or there might be a little bit of the 15-foot buffer, but all the trees are marked and clearly defined, as well as the street trees. So with the street trees being marked, it's also a very nice indicator. They're all wrapped with orange ribbon. So for him, that street tree kind of also gives you like the, hey, okay, there's a row of street trees right here. It actually helps indicate the right of way. So when I was walking the area and talking with him and telling him this is a very visible site, our offices, code enforcement, police, highway, they're all directly across the street. And I told them, I'm going to be checking in on this, and I don't want this to become a problem. This is going to be one of those where I'm going to be driving by as frequently as possible. So
I appreciate, Michael, you giving us the names and phone numbers of people that we can contact immediately in case there is.
Yeah.
It's appreciated.
No problem.
Michael and the board, are you guys comfortable with the construction orange fence? I think that's helpful for any excavator in the field, and installing the split rail fence along the.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, we are comfortable with any reasonable requests you have, and that's perfectly reasonable.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to add those as conditions, because I was discussing that with the excavator on site.
We've already ordered the split rail fence.
Great. Excellent. Jackie, you're muted if you're.
How are these trucks coming in, from Old Riverhead Road?
Yes.
It's the only way in.
Yep.
Boy, it's
Yeah.
a tight site. Wow. It is a very tight site.
And they have to remove this existing PSEG pole right there. So right now the excavator is coming in right this way. But I have to admit, the road, the initial tree removal was very exact. And I hope that continues to be.
I'm glad we had this discussion.
Me too. So I'm going to add to number 2, the clearing window, just so it's very clear. I'm going to add the approval to the road and drainage and SWIP for number 3. And then I'm going to also add, I'll probably put it above 5. So there'll be a new 5 and 6 for the construction fence and split rail fence. And then 5, Michael, we just need a letter that this acknowledges that this does not vest you with signature of the plans.
And can you
Say that again, I'm
put
sorry.
in some kind of regular monitoring dates within this 3-month period? It's not even 3 months now, right? It's 2.5 months.
It's 2.5, yeah.
Jackie, I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last thing you said.
So there's just, we just asked generally for an acknowledgement and a notarized letter that this does not vest you with any approvals prior to signature by the planning board and filing.
You got it.
Thank you.
And you heard my comment, Jackie.
Yes, you want somebody to, time frame for somebody to
Yeah.
check on?
Yeah.
So is that reasonable to get somebody to give us a status update every 2 weeks?
Sure.
Okay, and then also what I asked, I was speaking with the acting town engineer, Tom Houghton. I was wondering also, just so we're aware, if you could give us kind of an itinerary of which lots you're clearing and at what time. So that way we understand what the progress of the project is. So that way we have a clear understanding. From talking to the excavator, I believe he was going to start with the lots in the rear and then work his way to the road to cause the least amount of disturbance to the, residents along the road.
Can you include that in this approval?
So would you like add a condition that we get twice a month? We get updates?
Yeah, that you get a schedule. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll ask for a schedule of on-site disturbance for the lots. Because I just want to know which ones are getting cleared and when. And then I'll ask for a twice a month update. And that can just be an email to me, so that way I know how things are progressing.
Well, and then we can go take a look.
Exactly. Mhm.
Planning board members can go take a look as well.
It's on the way to Riverhead, so.
Yep.
I mean, I think the most important thing here is you've been able to see how they've cut this road in. And I think, as Jackie said, they did it extremely well, conservatively, well marked. So you have evidence already of how they're handling things, which is rarely the case. So I hope that that gives you comfort level.
Is this Campo who's doing the work?
Yes.
Okay,
So you're adding that, Jackie, if you would.
Yeah, I'm going to ask for,
send us a revised document.
Yeah, so I'm going to have it'll be the new 8 or the new 7 will be to give us a schedule of the disturbance that is going to be considered, and then to give us a twice a month update on the status.
And the point person, yeah.
Yeah, and then they're going to email me with all of the people that I can contact so that I have everyone's information.
Great.
I have met the project manager, Pat, and I did meet the excavator, Ed, on site last week.
Can you take this down from the screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Please. Any other questions? Okay, motion to adopt this as amended by Jackie. Robin, moved by Robin, second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Okay.
Thank you.
You.
I'm back.
Dario's Landscaping.
Do you mind if I just interject?
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
back. Could you? Sorry.
Should be off.
Okay. Okay. So the planning board dates, there's no word from the town board. They are contemplating it. They're not going to know until the 28th of December. So do you want to just go ahead?
We'll adopt this and then amend it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it back on the 13th and amend it. So, okay.
So motion to adopt our schedule until amended by Glorian, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy.
Great. Thank you so much and have a great holiday.
Thanks.
You
you too.
Bye.
Anthony Dario's. Outdoor storage.
You're muted, Anthony.
Doesn't show him muted.
There's no audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I got you.
There you are.
Okay. All right. Dario's Landscaping. So the planning board might remember we did a site plan for this a number of years ago. It was a change from one non-conforming use to another. This is a residentially zoned property, it was R20. Previously had a restaurant. I believe, if my memory's correct, I think it goes way back. I think it was the Roadhouse many years ago, but in any case, we did a site plan. Yeah, that's right, Gloria. And part of the site plan approval, it went to the zoning board for the change in non-conforming use. When we did the pre-submission conference and when we did the approval and the zoning board, when they did their approval, there was a condition that was imposed with no outdoor storage of materials, equipment, and the like. And Lori Wiltshire is here, and she's going to chime in. The property owner recently got a violation because they were storing all sorts of stuff in the back here. In this area, in the very back of the property line, is a landscape, there's a hedge back there. There's grass, but they were storing stuff there. A lot of this has been cleaned out. So Lori Wiltshire is here. She represents the owner and wanted to talk about formalizing and getting some type of approval to allow for the storage of some trucks outside. So that's why we're here, because right now the site plan approval does not allow for any outdoor storage of trucks. And it's a landscaping business, and Lori wanted to chit chat with the board quickly about
Do
this.
we have the site plan that shows how much parking we approved?
Yes, ma'am. It's not I apologize, the scanner is not great, but we approved. Whoops. It's on here somewhere. Just bear with me.
It's 19 spaces.
Okay. So it was 19 spaces, Jackie.
Okay, can you go then back to the visual?
Aerial?
Yeah.
Yep.
So you've got 3 and 4, 6, 7, 8,
And then
9, 10.
the rest back here.
All right, so we approved it for 19 spaces.
Correct.
Right.
But the zoning board put a condition in the approval that the storage of trucks and landscape vehicles is prohibited on the premises, which Fire Marshal Ryan White found very confusing. He's gotten complaints from neighbor about how the site's been utilized. They did get a violation. They were storing stuff there, and outdoor storage is prohibited, and my clients agree to that. But there's no reason that 19 parking spaces approved by the planning board should not be used for the parking of trucks and landscape vehicles that are associated with their business. So I'm hoping to seek some clarification in that language so that that issue doesn't come up again with the neighbor if they're coming back in the evening and parking their trucks in their spaces approved by the planning board.
So have they been doing that?
They haven't parking yet, but you can see they had a few little storage containers back in the far area that wouldn't happen again. They have another yard for the storage of their materials per se, and they don't need to be here. They just want to be able to use their 19 parking spaces for the vehicles associated with the business.
Well, it seems, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but if we approve 19 spaces on a site plan, that's what you have, 19 spaces. I don't know how
So we
anybody
just
else-
need to make a recommendation to the zoning board to clarify the language that they came up with prohibiting the storage of trucks and landscape vehicles.
Yep. And if I may, to the board here. So Lori's also on the zoning board tonight for clarification on this issue, and I will be there discussing it with the zoning board. Look, provided that they stick with cleaning up the site like they said they would, and they get rid of all the excess stuff, I don't have a problem with some landscaping trucks being stored at a landscaping business in the parking spaces. It happens all the time. I just think that we probably will have to, and I spoke to Lori about this, we'll probably have to do something in a resolution or a modification or something, because I think the language in our approval, was questionable and sort of prohibited it. So we may want to, if you're agreeable, to, allow for the storage of the landscaping trucks overnight, but with no other materials. But we would do it through a resolution, I think, is what my recommendation would be.
But why is it not clear, Anthony? I don't understand.
Only because I think the ZBA approval prohibited it, and our approval said no outdoor storage of materials, equipment, and the like. So I think that language probably could have excluded the trucks. But
Yes, well, let me just make that more clear. Specifically, the zoning board variant says the storage of trucks, landscaping vehicles, mulch or landscaping materials is prohibited on the premises. And it doesn't say parking of trucks and landscaping vehicles is allowed. Then that ended up in the planning board decision, referencing the zoning board decision that the storage of trucks, landscaping vehicles is prohibited. So we need to just make it clear that the parking of trucks and landscaping vehicles is permitted. The storage of them is not. There's a difference.
Yes, the storage and also stockpiling materials. I mean, we prohibit that all the time.
We're not asking for stockpiling materials.
And so is there a distinction between parking spaces for landscaping trucks?
No, the difference
Trucks,
is
right?
the word storage. The word storage is being misinterpreted as you're not allowed to keep your trucks there. But of course they have to use their parking spaces for their business.
Can I ask a question? I think, is a truck coming to the location, parking overnight and leaving, or is the trucks coming there and staying there, let's say, for a month where they're not being moved? Is that the difference between storage and parking?
It's really going to depend on the job they're on. You know, if they're hauling masonry, that's one vehicle. If they've got a chipper, it's sitting there for a week because they don't need it until next week on a job site. It could be that they're just parked there for a period of time, but it's not going to be piles of material on the site or storage containers.
Okay, I'm splitting hairs here because I'm hearing something from the ZBA and something from us. Somebody qualify for me. If a truck is parked at a location overnight, that logically to me is parking. If a truck is left there for a month or 3 weeks, is that storage?
Yes, of course it's storage.
I understand your premises, but we do have 19 legal parking spaces, which are screened from everyone.
Okay, again, you have parking spaces, not storage. So I'm trying to understand a parking space. What do we define a parking space being? And when does a parking space become a storage area? Is it the length of time that the equipment, that the truck is there? Because I can see what the community or the neighbor would be objecting to. Can I get a qualification or a definition on that?
I don't think there is one.
Well, there you go. There's where we've got the rub between the ZBA and us.
Well, there's also a violation on this property in that they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 storage trailers.
Yeah, they're gone now.
Which
They're
are
gone. They are gone.
totally gone, and you're just left with the parking space. There's no outdoor storage, right?
Correct. They had the violation for doing this and had to clean it up. And then they're going to get qualified these decisions so that the parking can be legal. And every time the neighbor calls and the code enforcement guy goes over there, if he finds trucks parked and not materials stored, he doesn't have to get involved.
I understand, but is there a definition, the differential between a truck being there parked, which means like an overnight or a day or two, versus a truck being stored because it's being left there for 5 months or 4 months because seasonally it's no longer necessary? Does it then become storage versus parking?
That's not defined. I mean,
You know,
I don't
that's
know how
a
to.
good question, Robin. And I don't know the answer to it. You know, like I said, this popped up and I didn't realize it was on the ZBA tonight. They're probably not going to make any decisions tonight because they're going to look for the planning board's comments is what I suspect is going to happen. And so, you know, I'm not really sure, you know.
That's how it looks.
Yeah.
If you've got 19 parking spaces or 10 parking spaces that have large trucks that are staying there for 4 months, that is a different appearance, okay, and maybe an intent than parking to do your work and leave in the morning. It's completely different, or it seems different to me. And guidance, if we have a definitional difference between storage, outdoor storage of a truck and outdoor parking of a truck.
Yeah, there needs to be some kind of clarity by language or code that, you know, a vehicle parked in the same spot X amount of days now qualifies as storage.
Yeah, Robin, what I was thinking, and I didn't mean to interject, is that under our property maintenance code, there might be some definitions of vehicles and storage and how long they're there, because they have the same problems on private property with abandoned vehicles that I know that they deal with. So if we can clarify with code enforcement, the definition of that and how they kind of define that in the property maintenance code, we just don't deal with that very often to know the particulars of that. But I bet code enforcement would be able to advise us on the property maintenance.
Which is really why Ryan is jumping in on this, because, but I think there is a definitional problem here. And the community has a right to get a definition.
Let me just say, from past experience in these landscaping properties, they very often subcontract out to people who mow the lawns, which is why you get trailers like that. The people with the independent people with the lawnmowers come, they go into those trailers and park their machinery. And that's an expansion essentially of the business. But that's a lot of how this stuff operates. We had some not very close to here. That was exactly the same situation. And so, you know, that's not what the site plan approval is about.
Right.
We approve. Is there any parking inside the building?
I believe there is. I believe they do park in the building, yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Lori, are you recommending, or are you guys amenable to fencing and doing more buffering in that rear of the property?
No,
just clean it up.
Wait a minute.
No, I mean fencing the end of the parking and having more substantial landscaping so that the trailers don't happen again.
No. I need to get a definition of what's the difference between, and Craig, I think Craig made it into less words than I did. We need a definition, what defines parking versus storage, before we buffer or try to hide a problem when we don't have a definition.
Right.
Well, I'm talking about.
I don't think you want buffering and fencing here, Jackie. You want to get rid of the trailers. They're also in a setback zone. This is a residential area.
Yeah, I was talking about both. I was talking about both, just the clarity and
that's why you have neighbors complaining.
Yes.
I think you also have an enforcement nightmare. I mean, okay, storage, you'll take the chipper, move it from space 5 to space 7.
Yeah.
And every time you move the chipper, it's like beep, 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 beep. You know, that's probably what's annoying the neighbors more than anything. Having them do musical trucks every third day is probably going to be a lot more, you know, problematic for the neighbors. I like the idea of buffering.
What's the setback here? Is it a 50-foot setback that was diminished?
No.
From the residential property in the rear yard?
Well, there was also pre-existing use of the site and parking lot in the back based upon the historic uses. There was a parking lot.
What is the setback?
It
Site plan.
It varies. They had pre-existing setbacks, and we made them reduce the improvement of the parking lot. It ranges. It's probably somewhere between 20 and 30 feet. It's
Okay, so that has been utilized, this setback, with trailers. So they've been asked to remove them. They did do that. So we could require planting, buffering in that area so that they don't use it.
They're a landscaping business. They should be able to do that.
That was my recommendation.
That's
I'm sorry if it got
point.
misconstrued.
It's a good point. But I just think that a lot of these landscaping places grow into mammoth messes, and particularly when you're in a residential area.
They have another yard where they can store materials. They don't need to be doing that here.
Right.
But who would be writing to code enforcement about the property maintenance code and the definition here situation? Would that be Anthony or would that be me?
Well, no, I think I would have to do a little research here for the board. You know, and I think that's what I'll do. Let me do the research that Robin, some of the board members are asking. I'll come back to the board. I'll have this discussion with the zoning board. They're not going to render a decision tonight, I'm sure. You know, while I'm there and we're discussing it, I'll meet with Lori. Maybe we could come up with a plan that defines something also, and then come back to the board if you want. We could do that.
Yeah, I think it's only fair to the company as well as to our resources. We can't have code enforcement going out without clarity, and it's not fair to the landowner for him to be getting violations or having to deal with this when we don't have a clear understanding what he's allowed to do or not. So I think a clarification is beneficial for everyone.
That's why we're here. Perfect. Good.
Okay, thank you.
I will do that, and I'll come back to the board.
And me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jackie.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Is Michael here?
Oh,
No,
I was wondering,
I'm handling that.
would you mind? I have just been contacted by Heather Wright. She has an extension on for Chicken Briar. Would you be willing to take that out of order?
Where is it? Chicken Briar.
It's number 21 on the agenda.
Sure.
Okay, it should be. Yeah, it's a waiver of the planning board pre-app policy for the subdivision. I am comfortable with it. They had delays related to the pandemic as well as health department. This is a 4-lot subdivision in Eastport where we're getting a cluster plan. So they're working on finalizing the drainage for the common driveways, which goes hand in hand in SWIP and health department approval. So they have made a request to get a waiver and another extension of the pre-application report.
To what? What's the extension?
Standard is 1 year, if you're comfortable with that.
An extension for 1 year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have delays because of the pandemic as well as with health department. And part of the information health department is waiting on is relating to the common driveways and SWIP, which we have been reviewing with engineering over the past few months.
And the health department has indicated that they need the drainage plan approved by the town engineer before they'll issue the health department approval, which I think is somewhat of a unique request. So we were trying to figure out how we could, update the drainage plan and then get it to Tom so that he could review it and then get our health department approval.
Any discussion?
I'll move it.
Motion by Robin, second by Dennis, all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, and 1 vacancy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a happy holidays.
Happy holiday.
Same to you.
Thank you. Same
So
here.
Anthony, you're doing the 3 town board referrals. The first
I
one,
am.
medical marijuana.
I am. So let's see here. Let's see. Okay. So I'm pinch hitting here for Michelangelo Lieberman. So the first town board referral is a change to the town code to define and list medical marijuana dispensaries in the business districts table, and to enact it as a special exception and with a new section of the code. Just a little background, this is to address New York State's law in 2014, which legalized medical marijuana and dispensaries under a whole series of regulations. The town at the time didn't put anything in the code as it relates to medical marijuana dispensaries. But let me be very clear. This pertains only to medical marijuana. It doesn't have anything to do with recreational at this point. So I just want to differentiate between the two. The town hasn't made any decisions yet on the latter. But in any case, what the town is proposing is to define medical marijuana dispensary and put a definition in the town code. I want to notice here in this paragraph where we get into intent and everything, they talk about designating cannabis dispensaries in certain business districts and establishing special exception standards for said use when located in the Hamlet Business Zoning District. So if you go to the table, what they're proposing is a special exception, a medical marijuana dispensary would be a special exception in the highway business zone, would be a special exception in the Hamlet commercial zone, and would be permitted in the village business zone and then prohibited everywhere else. So that's what they're proposing. And then they have a series of special exception standards that I'll go through with you. But my first initial comment on this is that if it's going to be a special exception in the highway business and a special exception in the Hamlet commercial, I would probably think, and maybe the planning board has a different opinion, but I would think we would want it to be a special exception in the village business zone as well, and adhere to the standards that are outlined in the code as if it were in the highway business or the Hamlet commercial. So my first initial comment is that I think in the VB zone that it would be a special exception as well.
Why would we even comment on village business when they're their own separate municipality?
Yeah.
Oh, we have VB.
We have
No, village
VB,
business
Madam
zoning.
Chair.
Village business zoning.
zoning.
Yeah. So, you know, my position is if we're going to call it a special exception in certain zoning districts, but not in the village business zoning district, I think we would want to get special exception in the village business zoning district. If we're talking about issues of traffic, you know, impacts on the community, proximity to schools, places of worship, and the like, I think that we'd want to look at that within the village business as well. So,
What was their reasoning for not putting a special exception?
you know, I don't know, Robin, exactly. I think that the initial thought was that within the village business, unlike a highway business or the Hamlet commercial, the village business is our centralized, walkable business communities. And I think they were just thinking that it would be better as a permitted use in those areas where we try to promote walkability and things like that. I just, you know, I don't know that, you know, we could differentiate between a medical marijuana dispensary and a highway business and not in the village business.
Yeah.
I think that you would want to, if you're inclined, to go with the legislation to treat it as a special exception wherever you're going to allow it to go.
It also means that it would not have to come to the planning board because if
the risk is if it's permitted in the village business zoning district and someone goes into a VB property with a building and it's permitted and the medical marijuana dispensary does not result in any changes to the parking requirement, you wouldn't get any review of the application, whereas a special exception has to come to the planning board no matter what.
Correct.
So I have a question, Anthony. I don't know if you
Sure.
know the answer, but the Shinnecock plans a marijuana facility. Will that include medical marijuana?
Oh, I would imagine.
It's medical marijuana and recreational.
Both.
I think the medical may come sooner than the recreational, but.
That's right. And on the, on this here where they, and they put in special exception standards, the one being, the first one being the planning board may request a traffic impact analysis. Obviously, we want to look at traffic impact. And I've done a little research myself. But what I found is that a lot of this, you'll see when these things are first, whether it's recreational or medical, will generate significant traffic right on the outset, and then tends to teeter off as more facilities become available and so forth. But there typically are some traffic impacts.
And you said that special exception standards are being prepared and written for this?
Yeah, they're right here. So the first, and I'm going through them. So the first one was the special exception standard about a traffic impact analysis. The second one has to do with the appearance, the landscaping, the lighting, all the site plan issues to be in conformance with the character of the community. So it gives basically some design elements there. The other special exception standards that it shall not be located minimum of 1,500 feet of another lot on which a medical marijuana dispensary is located. So my guess is that they're trying not to oversaturate a community with them by keeping a distance between marijuana dispensaries. Not to be permitted within 500 feet of a school or within 200 feet of a house of worship. And again, this is what's proposed. The other one is, let's see, inventory of existing medical marijuana that are either within a jurisdiction of the town or within 1 mile of the border of itself. So this is a special exception standard that the applicant would need to advise of the number of medical marijuana dispensaries within a jurisdiction of the town or within 1 mile of the border of the town. So we have some idea of how many are coming in. The licensing requirements of the state obviously need to be complied with. And then a standard pertaining to security system and cameras to address issues of theft and other activities.
Anthony, a question. If it's a permitted use, what entity would review these standards?
Nobody.
Well, if it's permitted, these standards wouldn't apply. That's why I was raising the issue, is that I think that we should just treat it as a special exception across the board.
Totally agree.
And what about community character?
Yep, that's in here, and that's the second one talks about the appearance, layout, operation of the site, architectural style. It prohibits any chain, chain style architecture, and it talks about lighting and signage. So all that would have to be part of the special exception.
I have a really big concern about C, not C. Can you go down so I have the right designation? Is it, okay, yeah, C. And the saturation in a given area. Okay, 1,500 feet. I'm just thinking of, can we also limit how many in a mileage area? Because I can understand not a 15, I'm just thinking of certain communities getting saturated with these. And 1,500 feet and unless there's a mileage designation, you're going to get these saturated in an area. And I don't think this protects against that saturation.
Okay. It's an interesting question. It's always, those issues of a number of permitted uses. I'm not sure of the legality to, I would defer to Kathleen about, this issue of saturation. My guess is there's somewhat of a limit, I think, on what we can and can't prohibit. Because this issue, it pops up with other uses, restaurants or
fast food outlets.
Stores.
Yeah, I think that I would like just to include, because we don't know, or I don't know, all right? I would just like to include something that the planning board is concerned, and you can poll the board on this, but I am concerned of saturation in any given area with a number of these and having certain communities be targeted because maybe rents are less expensive to rent space or such, that we do not let certain areas of our community become overly saturated with them.
So the comment can be, Anthony, something, the board, if the board all agrees, the board has concerns regarding saturation and whether or not 1,500 feet accomplishes significant enough distance. Presumably your other special exception standards are going to serve the function of limiting how many sites can meet the criteria within those applicable zoning districts That's kind of also the function of your special exception standards as a whole, and these specific ones in particular. If that makes, does that
I'm
make
fine with
sense?
Kathleen's wording. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think what we don't know is what kind of licensing the state's requiring. There may be limitations on the number that's noted that I
And
think.
this is just medical, remember, you know, medical is already, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I know.
Recreational remains to, right, okay.
But it's F is
These
reference.
licenses are issued in other towns already. We're just trying to zone for the medical licenses within our town.
And I'm fine with your wording, Kathleen, just because I want.
I am as well. I just thought there may be limitations at the state level that might preclude some of this concern.
Not for medical, recreational, it's mimicked here. The recreational is 500 feet from a school and 200 feet from a house of worship. Other than that, for recreational, if the town chooses not to opt out, then you can put reasonable restrictions on there as long as those restrictions don't make operation practically impossible.
Okay.
So I just want to say that I think that the special exception standards as presented and written are woefully inadequate. And I don't know how much time was spent on thinking about this, but this is a whole new area of planning and zoning. And if I were doing it, I would kick it right back to the town board and tell them to spend a little bit more time thinking about it. That is my opinion.
Yeah,
Because there will be, they have history in other towns where there's been a plethora of these that are opening up, competing for business. And unless you have a clear set of special exception standards, and I think we don't, you're not going to be able to control it. So that's my 2 cents.
I will certainly put that in, that if the planning board's in agreement that you find that the standards as currently, outlined, may not be adequate or haven't been thoroughly vetted, given it's a new use and a new standard. And so we could let the town board know that as well.
Right. Shouldn't be rushed. It should be thought out. It should be what if. etc.
And I think it also should consider the fact that these medical marijuana dispensaries might become recreational dispensaries, which is going to increase the traffic and everything else, so that how someone goes from a medical dispensary definition to include recreational has to be considered also, because that is going to become even greater traffic, greater foot traffic, greater car traffic. I mean, just logically. So I think there should be some concern that this definition is going to get changed.
And then I think then perhaps to that point, since the board's saying, looking at the standards, vetting them more, maybe to that point, that would include evaluating the zoning districts again to make sure that we're just looking, because they're saying village business, highway business, hamlet commercial, but we didn't do anything with shopping center, for example. And so I'm just, maybe we need to know why, or whether or not maybe it should go there. I don't know. That's. I think you're right. There's probably some
It
questions.
requires a lot of research and review. So I don't know who prepared this, but
have they looked at other municipalities? Have we looked at other municipalities?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure, Dennis. I unfortunately I was not involved in drafting this, but we could certainly look into it.
Can we tell them that we're really concerned about this? And
right. It needs a lot more review and time. I mean, I don't know what the rush is. So
especially since we're going to be the ones who are going to have to enforce it. I'm not comfortable with.
I think we could do that then. I think maybe your first comment to the town board is going to be that the planning board is concerned that the, legislation as currently written is, needs to be further evaluated to make sure that the provisions are adequate to address whatever concerns that may, come as a result of this.
Okay, I think we have to move on. Is everybody, I think, captured it? Has
Yeah,
Anthony
I
captured
like
it?
Anthony's
Yes?
first state, that was good. Start it right there.
Yeah, needs a lot more review and evaluation and research. So can I have a motion to, Anthony, you're just going to write this up. Do you want to come back to us with it? Or what do
No,
you
we
want?
can't, because I think they're putting it on their next agenda. So I want to be able to write this up quickly to make sure we get our comments to them, and I'll send it to you guys tomorrow with the final draft.
Please slow them down. Motion to accept by Dennis, second by Craig. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unless it's clear, I'm going to vote no, Anthony.
Okay.
Okay, this what you're going to say? All right.
I understand.
Okay, so
Jackie on this.
yeah, so 5 in favor, some reluctantly, one absent and one.
We're depending upon you, Anthony.
I know. I knew going into this. It was gonna...
No pressure though, Anthony.
You don't have to mince the words, Anthony. You want to go into the second one? The physical.
Sure. So this is another town code amendment to the zoning code. This is to basically include physical fitness facilities as special exception uses in LI 40 and LI 200. And I think, what they're finding is, and a lot of municipalities, these uses in the LI 40 are okay. The buildings, require a lot of space. We don't necessarily want buildings of this size sitting up on the highway. So they basically just decided to include them as special exception uses in LI 40 and LI 200, and then put together a series of special exception standards, not too many, just because I don't think there's probably a lot of major issues with it.
And it's permitted in art galleries and commercial?
This is just,
those are just as it's a section of the code.
that's just a section of the code.
All right, I'm confused.
So they're adding 799 physical fitness
Thank
facilities.
you. Yes.
Yeah, that's right, Gloria. And so art galleries and commercial already listed there. So, so they just want to include physical fitness facilities as special exception uses, which would have to come to the planning board. Again, the big issue that they'll ask in the special exception has to do with traffic and parking,
yeah,
that kind of thing. But those are standard site plan issues. But the big thing was to really get it into the LI 40 and LI 200. I personally don't have any issues with it, only because I've seen a lot of municipalities struggle with these physical fitness facilities, and they often put them in the LI 40 or LI, industrial land. So.
But are they restricted in HB?
I'm sure I don't have that sitting here. I'm sure they're permitted or special exception in HB. This code changes to only include them as special exception in the LI 40 and the LI 200, and no other changes to where they're permitted in the code.
But where there's special exceptions in other places of the code, are we having the same standards?
I'd have to find that out.
Okay, can we just check that if these uses are special exceptions in any other zoning areas, that the special exception regulations are the same?
The same.
So we have.
Because they're in HB now, we can tell you that.
I just want
sure.
to we're consistent, that's all.
Yep, we could do that. We can make that comment to the town board. that the planning board wants to ensure that the physical fitness facility special exception standards are consistent in the zoning districts.
Correct. Thank you.
In the zoning, yeah, districts where they're allowed. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, can I have a motion by Dennis, second by someone, by Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Okay, the next one, Anthony, is,
Another just the zoning code again. This is to define those mini storage, those self-storage facilities, to allow them as special exception uses in the highway business zoning district. Right now, they're not permitted in that zoning district, I don't believe at all. And so the town wanted to be able to include them in the highway business zoning district.
I think that putting those storage buildings in highway business, which is valuable property, is a big mistake.
I don't like it.
I mean, where you see them in other communities along the highway business where there are 3 and 4 of these buildings, even though there's the specifications here, you have some architectural recommendations, it's not the right place for them. They should be in LI 40, they should be in other areas, but not in highway business. That is my opinion. So
Okay.
I don't know how.
And don't forget, these facilities foster the use of large tractor trailers,
Right.
which could be problematic from a traffic standpoint as well.
Gotcha.
And I think also we're trying to revitalize these areas, and this is not a revitalization business.
Right. I mean, the highway business, so many corridor studies have been done, which
Yeah.
recommend development in a way that is anti-storage buildings, you know. So, so I certainly.
I'm getting a sense from the board here that generally the planning board does not believe that self-storage facilities should be permitted in the highway business. You know, given, well, I think you're right, that the need for the highway business uses as it is, we have zoning that accommodates this type of use. And Dennis's point about the kind of traffic that comes in and out of these sites.
So can we vote no on this?
Yeah,
Well, I think you're just voting on the report. You're voting on the reports, yeah.
As long as Anthony gets it right. So Anthony, you'll send us all of your reports, please.
You will get them tomorrow.
Okay,
So,
great.
so Robin just voted yes to say no.
Right.
That's right.
I'm voting yes to say no also.
So am I.
So motion to.
Vote yes to say no.
Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, extensions, so 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. So I think you've done it.
Kind of like one of those proposition questions on the ballot.
Right? You can't figure, does that mean yes or no? Or
I love that.
we're clear on this one, Anthony. Don't give away the
I'm
highway.
going to send it all to you tomorrow, so.
All right.
So I'm going to go to 17 Two Rose Court.
Reveg.
Yep. Claire had actually been working on this one. I had to make a few changes, but this is a property, Two Rose Court in Southampton. 9,000 and change over cleared. So they put together a survey that shows the areas that are going to be revegetated, along with the native trees. We got some red oaks, pitch pine, a bunch of pitch pines, red oaks, low bush blueberry. Same thing down here. I also have them put in a note. I think we should always do this so they know any existing lawn areas are to be removed in the areas of revegetation.
Oh, that's good.
So we put that in there. And I think I would approve it subject to all the conditions that we do for clearing.
Okay.
Okay, great. Motion to approve the re-veg plan by Gloria, second by Craig, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Jackie, you have a re-veg plan?
I do, yes. Rolling Ridge, Section 2, Lot 11, which is 54 Squires.
Okay.
Oh, and if you could please let in, the representative is Brant Rayner for the applicant. So this is the area when they started excavation for the lot, they went over by 9%. So I had a re-veg plan that I reviewed, going over the calculations as well as the species and the density, which I asked them to change and revise. And now we do have those changes, which shows the revegetation here, mainly in the, like south of the driveway and to the edge of the driveway, as well as in the north backyard. This actually had a very extreme variety of plants. So we were able to utilize a lot of different native plants here when I did the initial inspection. So I do have a resolution to approve the site disturbance application, and it will bring it into compliance with the aquifer protection and also revegetate a little bit of the buffer that was taken into account during excavation.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. Anthony, you've got
Eugene
extension
Sessa.
on Eugene Sessa.
Yeah, just to give the board a reminder, this is, we did a pre-app on this one. And it was actually good until December 12th of 2021. You might remember this property in Hampton Bays. The planning board has been looking at this for decades. It's a property on West Montauk Highway with no ability to access the property from any of the private roads, and they only have access of a West Montauk Highway. It's a really tough subdivision. I'm really trying to get the town community preservation fund to buy this. Putting 5 or 6 houses on the highway here is not a good idea. But in any case, we did the report. All these issues have been laid out, and I was just going to recommend that we just extend the report until December 12th of 2022.
Okay, motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. PA pad, 1-year extension, Jackie?
Yes, Randall Whitebrout is here for the applicant, and this is his first request for a 2-lot subdivision. You guys may remember this is just to the west of Centro in Hampton Bays.
Okay.
I don't know if Randall's here, but this is the standard, 1-year extension. He was
Okay.
planning on attending. I just wanted to show you the visual right here. This is a 2-lot subdivision with a flag lot. This is Central Restaurant right here. Nothing has changed. So this is the layout, just to give you a reminder.
Okay. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. We've done Chicken Briar Hill. Anthony, Sean, and Jennifer Hattrick.
Yep, this was the 4-lot subdivision on North Bishop Lane in Tuckahoe. We did the conditional final approval. They're just looking for an extension of time to submit the final maps from January 3rd of 2022 till April 3rd of 2022.
Great. Motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. You have Jacqueline Cressy.
Yep, they're just doing an extension of the action deadline until January 13th. I got revised plans that I think we could finally, work with them. So just an extension until January 13th, 2022.
Okay, good. Motion by Gloria and second by Craig. All in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 1 absent, 1 vacancy. So I want to acknowledge 3 signed sets of plans, 392 Mill Hill Road. Number
Yes.
25 Shore St. George LLC, 26 Sag Harbor Antique Fire Museum. You signed all of them, Gloria, right?
It's a town hall on Tuesday.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
So we have just a few minutes, and I'm sorry that John Zuccarelli is not here to hear how much, certainly personally for me, we've appreciated his service on the town board. And I'd like for us, if we're in agreement, to make a formal request to the town board to issue John a proclamation for his service. So, I mean, any of you can say anything that you want about Zook. And then we'll just take a vote on that, about the proclamation.
You weren't here last week, Jackie, but we all realized that John Zuccarelli sounds exactly like Tony Fauci.
That's funny, right? But doesn't look like him, that's for sure.
Yeah, sounds exactly like him.
Yeah,
As a
It is
resident-
uncanny.
As a resident of Hampton Bays, all right, John will be missed defending Hampton Bays because he always kept his community in his heart, and he was always tried to do the right thing by his community. So we're going to miss him.
and he's also served on the ARB, I believe, over the years, and on several other boards. You know, he has certainly talked about service to the community. He personifies that. And I know he loves his sailing, so maybe he'll have more time to do that.
Sure.
So let's take a vote to ask the town board to, if someone can write it up from staff, to issue a proclamation to John. A motion?
A motion, I'll make the
By
motion.
Robin and second by Dennis, and all in favor. We're all in favor, John, 5 in favor. You're absent, John Zuccarelli, and we have a vacancy. So I'm sorry he's not here to hear all those good things, but if
He would have been against it.
True. So we don't meet again till January. Happy holidays to everybody, and
Holidays.
to a really great board.
Be
I
safe.
Appreciate everybody.
Have a
Stay safe, everybody.
Everybody stay
everyone.
safe, please.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Sure.
Merry
See you
Christmas.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. See you. What?
Oh, motion.
Oh, motion to adjourn.